No. Oh, there we go. Last time it was too short. This time it's too long. I need to do the precision. I guessed this morning. I apologise for that. I have done a little bit of tweaking, but there are a couple of things that I need to just quickly fix. But good morning. I am feeling a little better. I'm getting there. I'm on the mend. I think anyone who's sort of a frequent flyer in the surgery department knows that it's sort of, up and down. Now I'm at that stage where, I'm feeling okay, but I forget from time to time that I had surgery 2.5 weeks ago, major surgery with multi-part operation that was not straightforward. So, but every so often I forget. So yesterday, because I've moved on to being able to eat eggs, but I ate too fast and I was so sick. That's just I just forgot, like absent-mindedly going, oh, look, there's a nut there. Oh, fuck, I forgot. I'm not supposed to be like, that hurt. There's a reason why. But other than that, there's, it's it's slow going, but I think I'm probably back, touch wood, everything being fine, back this week. So just give me 1 second because I want to show you something. And I was running a bit late. Hang on a sec. Let me just load some files. Okay, I want to show you something. And I'm not going to do a screen share. I'm just going to do something very quick. Hang on, iCloud Drive. Let's go there, shall we? Where are we? Let's go ahead and guess that it's on the other computer. It's probably on the desktop. Let's have a look. Here we go. No, they're here. Okay, give me a second. So 1, 2, 3, those. Let me just get them downloaded from iCloud, and then I want to show you something. One sec. All right. Because I'm going to talk a bit now. Today's stream, I had different fucking intentions today. Which was, hang on one sec. Fucking hell, one sec. To deal with these things on the fly. You know how anybody who knows any of this, slide mode, manual, okay. Don't loop. Hide. Okay, just one sec. That should be right. Okay. So I want to show you this. Okay. Now you might not be able to see it because my handwriting's dog shit. Well, you know, let's just, you know, move on from that. But I just wanted to show you something because I think it presents some context for what I'm talking about. Now, what I'm going to do, I've actually decided I'm going to not address the taking away of the verification marks this morning, mostly because it's funny and because it's sort of, some of the stuff's going to be funny and there'll be some sort of good reactions, and I want to compile those today as it's unfolding. But also because I prepared for a Twitter today. Where are we at? Why is it happening? What the fuck is happening going on? I actually transcribed most of my videos around the Twitter files, and since Elon Musk sort of purchased Twitter, and I think a lot of the substance gets lost in the sort of spectacle of it all. But it's really interesting because I used a tool called ChatGPT. You may have heard of it. There's a plugin for your browser where you can take a YouTube video and it will sort of, you know, take the transcript of that video and summarize it into a sort of bunch of dot points, into key points and events. Doesn't like me very much. Let's put it that way. But it does actually a pretty decent job of extracting sort of my main points. So it really will help with my workflow moving forward, which is great. Great news for members only, where you will actually get articles that summarize the videos and, you know, all those things. So it's just a really great workflow using Notion and stuff. I'll do a separate video on Notion. I'm thinking of actually, as a side point, I'm thinking of setting up a tech channel, a tech-specific channel. That's where I show technical things and tutorials and various other things. And, you know, not for the money per se, but just because I've got this wealth of knowledge and all of these things. But I don't really want to saturate my channels or my channel. And I don't really want to be running two, but they're just not, it's not fit for purpose, which is that I don't want, you know, my commentary to be sort of overshadowed by sort of tech products and tech reviews, but I also don't want the tech reviews to be compromised by politics. I think you can see why those are a problem. But now, I've been saying that I've been hunting for this stuff for years, and I still can't find the fucking paper that I wrote. I literally, in 2014, all I can find is a Facebook post with some dot points, and but I can't find the paper itself. It's a shame. It's on an old hard drive for my old, I think it's on the old business that is now like with previous business partner, where that workspace is, that Google Drive thing is dead. I think it's on there, which sucks. Because it was a white paper that I submitted, tried to get to Twitter in their imaginary inbox. On how I think things could, you know, how they could improve Twitter. This was in 2014. So let me just hide this quickly. But so the context of Twitter, you need to understand, and again, I know that a lot of this stuff harks back years and years and years and years and years, because it's 15 years of, like, there's a lot of history here. It's not just, you know, transactional, you know, here's my product. Okay. You know, like, these things have sort of evolved over time. there's things that are known, like in terms of like user experience and how users react to changes. I've talked a lot about eBay and how just a simple change from yellow to white, and the constant drama over like Facebook news feed when they were trying to implement new things and having that user pushback. That's a very delicate task. Okay. Now, hopefully the sound is working. If there are any problems, I don't seem to be having CPU spikes finally, which is good. But, don't be a dick about it. But, this one, so this stream is titled, Oh, Elon. Because I think that what happens is, and much like Trump, much like these figures, much like these, this weapon of mass distraction that we call the culture wars, the people who are focused on the substance of the issue are mischaracterized, all these, it's a game of, it's a race to the bottom of who can be the stupidest, who can be the most spiteful, who's the greediest, like we're seeing this race to the bottom. Unfortunately for me, as a person who has been, on the internet and made myself a crash test dummy, I often say that, for all of these things, I go in, I see how it works, I sort of dissect it, I look at everything, I observe, I measure. I'm just a user experience A/B tester person. I'm human-centered fucking from cell to cell in my body. I'm curious. I want to change things. I want to make things better, but you can only make things better when you know something inside out. And I know Twitter inside out as much as anyone who doesn't work inside Twitter can know Twitter. I love Twitter. Okay. I fucking adore that as a product. I love it. What I despair over, okay, is how people are using and abusing this product. That is a great fucking product. It is a victory. It is a tremendous effort, collective effort of thousands and thousands of people built off of an open source movement, built off of a publicly funded, research, built off of the Defense Department. The things that we can achieve collectively in technology are absolutely fucking miraculous. And the problem is, like throughout you cannot imagine. And I'm just going to take you through just some of the events. I'm not going to go through all of internet history, but I'm just going to talk about what's happened just in the last year. Because it has been a year since Elon Musk decided to purchase Twitter. I'm going to focus more on what's happening today, maybe over the weekend, because I'm not going to sit there and be reactive, okay? I've been roasting everyone solidly all morning on Twitter. You are welcome to follow me there, okay, at Taylor if you want, Tealou. Unfortunately, because my Google Drive has decided to refuse to work, the little banner that shows where my follows are isn't there. But we'll figure this out. Okay, we'll figure it out together. Actually, give me 2 seconds. Let me do that. Let me just add it while we're on the fly, because I don't think there's actually anyone watching anyway, because I didn't put the alerts out today, because I think there's so much content here that I might actually just end up turning it into like a few different clips. So 1 second. And also, I think a bunch of the people that I do watch are on other streams with people that are, so that's fine. You can watch the replay later. It's fine. Socials. Let me just change this. Hang on. Hang on. Oh, I can't do it without overlaying fucking shit. Hang on 1 sec. 1 minute. It's a live stream. This is how live streams go. Okay. So overlays, socials. Let me just find those graphics again. Okay. Let me just add them to. I've had to switch to iCloud directory, so it shares. I don't know why Google Drive's not. It's just dog shit anyway. It's not worth the effort. Assets. Let's tell you my file paths. There we go. Don't read things aloud on streams. Okay. 1 second. Overlays. Is it there? Nah. Here we go. Instagram, Twitter. Website's wrong, but that doesn't matter. Patreon, they're the important ones. Okay. Give me 1 second. There we go. 1 sec. There we go. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Okay. Good. It's good to do things on the fly, actually. Because yeah. I think if I do break out a tech channel, what I'll do is actually show you like some of these things that I've learned in the last few years as well, technically, because I have learned a lot, and there are a lot of things that are trial and error, and how to I finally sort of got my lighting somewhat okay. Still fixing it. Still working on. It's not in the right spot, but I've actually got a streaming desk, and Paul is building me a thing so the lights can be positioned absolutely correctly. But other than that, there's quite a few things. Can't do much about the face, but there you go. So anyway, what I'm going to do is first of all, I'll show you a video. Okay, let's see if this works. Again, let's see. I've got to create hotkeys for this, and create like it so that it has to go full screen. But we're figuring stuff out.
Actually, I got to be fair with you. I'm only setting you up a little bit. It's just not a trick question, but it's just a setup because I don't really care about the water, to tell you the truth. I just love to hear the answer to that question. I ask that question everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, I say, how's the water? Haven't gotten a positive answer yet. Not one. Last year I was in 40 states, 100 cities. Not one audience was able to say to me, yes, enjoy some of our fine local water. It is pure and it is good. Of course, I know a lot of people don't talk that way anymore, but nobody trusts the local water supply. Nobody. And that amuses me. I like that. I admit I'm a bit perverted, but it amuses me that no one can really trust the water anymore. And the thing I like about it the most is it means the system is beginning to collapse, and everything is slowly breaking down. I enjoy chaos and disorder. Not just because they help me professionally. They're also my hobby. You see, I'm an Entropy fan.
The god and master.
I'm an Entropy fan. When I first heard of entropy in high school science, I was attracted to it immediately. When they told me that in nature, all systems are breaking down, I thought, what a good thing. What a good thing. Perhaps I can make some small contribution in this area myself. And of course, it's not just in nature. In this country, the whole social structure, just beginning to collapse. You watch. Just beginning now to come apart at the edges and the seams. And the thing I like about that is that it means it makes the news on television more interesting, makes the television news more exciting, makes it more fun. I watch television news for one thing and one thing only: entertainment. That's all I want from the news: entertainment. You know my favorite thing on television? Bad news. Bad news and disasters and accidents and catastrophes. I want to see some explosions and fires. I want to see shit blowing up and bodies flying around. I'm not interested in the budget. I don't care about tax negotiations. I don't want to know what country the fucking Pope is in. But you show me a hospital that's on fire and people on crutches are jumping off the roof, and I'm a happy guy. I'm a happy guy. I'm a happy guy. I want to see a paint factory blowing up. I want to see an oil refinery explode. I want to see a tornado hit a church on Sunday. I want to see people, I want to know there's some guy running through the Kmart with an automatic weapon firing at the clerks. I want to see thousands of people in the street killing policemen. I want to hear about a nuclear meltdown. I want to know the stock market dropped 2,000 points in one day. I want to see people under pressure. Sirens, flames, smoke, bodies, graves being filled, parents weeping, exciting shit. My kind of TV. I just want some entertainment. It's just the kind of guy I am. It's the kind of guy I am. You know what I love the most? When big chunks of concrete and fiery wood are falling out of the sky and people are running around trying to get out of the way. Exciting shit. That's why I watch auto racing. That's the only reason I watch auto racing. I'm waiting for some accidents, man. I want to see some cars on fire. I don't care about a bunch of redneck jack-offs driving 500 miles in a circle. 500 miles in a circle? Children can do that, for Christ's sakes. Doesn't impress me. I want to see some schmuck with his hair on fire running around punching his own head. trying to put it out. I want to see the pits explode. I want to see a car doing a 200-mile-an-hour cartwheel. Hey, where else besides auto racing am I going to see a 23-car collision and not be in the son of a bitch? And if a car flies out of control, lands in the stands and kills 50 spectators, fine, fuck them. Serves them right. They paid to get in, let them take their chances with everybody else. Just means more fun for me. More fun for me. Hey, at least I admit it. At least I admit it. Most people won't admit to those feelings. Most people see something like that on television, they'll say, oh, isn't that awful? Isn't that too bad? Lying assholes. Lying assholes. You love it and you know it. Explosions are fun. And hey, the closer the explosion is to your house, the more fun it is. Did you ever notice that? Sometimes you have the TV on and you're working around the house. Some guy comes on television and says, 6,000 people were killed in an explosion today. You say, where? He says, in Pakistan. You say, oh, fuck Pakistan. Too far away to be any fun. But if he says it happened in your hometown, you'll say, whoa, hot shit, come on, Dave, let's go look at the bodies. Let's go look at the bodies. I love bad news. I love bad news. Hey, the more bad news there is, the faster this system collapses. Fine by me. Fine by me. Don't bother my ass. Don't bother my ass none. I'm glad the water sucks. I'm glad it sucks. You know what I do about it? I drink it.
And there we have it.
Unless it really smells. If it really smells a lot like sulfur, then I might buy a soda. But it's got to be a soda loaded with chemical additives. I like a lot of chemical additives in the things I eat and drink. See, I'm not one of these people who's worried about everything. You got people like this around you. Country's full of them now. People walking around all day long, every minute of the day, worried about everything. Worried about the air, worried about the water, worried about the soil. Worried about insecticides, pesticides, food additives, carcinogens. Worried about radon gas, worried about asbestos. Worried about saving endangered species. Let me tell you about endangered species, all right? Saving endangered species is just one more arrogant attempt by humans to control nature. It's arrogant meddling. It's what got us in trouble in the first place. Doesn't anybody understand that? Interfering with nature. Over 90%, way over 90% of all the species that have ever lived on this planet, are gone. They're extinct. We didn't kill them all. They just disappeared. That's what nature does. They disappear these days at the rate of 25 a day. And I mean regardless of our behavior. Irrespective of how we act on this planet, 25 species that were here today will be gone tomorrow. Let them go gracefully. Leave nature alone. Haven't we done enough? We're so self-important. So self-important. Everybody's going to save something now. Save the trees, save the bees, save the whales, save those snails. And the greatest arrogance of all, save the planet. What? Are these fucking people kidding me? Save the planet? We don't even know how to take care of ourselves yet. We haven't learned how to care for one another. We're going to save the fucking planet? I'm getting tired of that shit. Tired of that shit. Tired. I'm tired of fucking Earth Day. I'm tired of these self-righteous environmentalists, these white bourgeois liberals who think the only thing wrong with this country is there aren't enough bicycle paths. People trying to make the world safe for their Volvos. Besides, environmentalists don't give a shit about the planet. They don't care about the planet. Not in the abstract, they don't. Not in the abstract, they don't. You know what they're interested in? A clean place to live. Their own habitat. They're worried that someday in the future they might be personally inconvenienced. Narrow, unenlightened self-interest doesn't impress me. Besides, there is nothing wrong with the planet. Nothing wrong with the planet. The planet is fine. The people are fucked. Difference. The planet is fine. Compared to the people, the planet is doing great. It's been here 4.5 billion years. Did you ever think about the arithmetic? Planet has been here 4.5 billion years. We've been here, what, 100,000? Maybe 200,000? And we've only been engaged in heavy industry for a little over 200 years. 200 years versus 4.5 billion. And we have the conceit to think that somehow we're a threat? That somehow we're going to put in jeopardy this beautiful little blue-green ball that's just a-floating around the sun? The planet has been through a lot worse than us. Been through all kinds of things worse than us. Been through earthquakes, volcanoes, plate tectonics, continental drift, solar flares, sunspots, magnetic storms, the magnetic reversal of the poles, hundreds of thousands of years of bombardment by comets and asteroids and meteors, worldwide floods, tidal waves, worldwide fires, erosion, cosmic rays, recurring ice ages, and we think some plastic bags
And they're crying about a blue check.
are going to make a
Perspective.
The planet isn't going anywhere. We are. We're going away. Pack your shit, folks. Going away. And we won't leave much of a trace either. Thank God for that. Maybe a little styrofoam. Maybe. Little styrofoam. Planet will be here and we'll be long gone. Just another failed mutation. Just another closed-end biological mistake. An evolutionary cul-de-sac. The planet will shake us off like a bad case of fleas. A surface nuisance. You want to know how the planet's doing? Ask those people at Pompeii who are frozen into position from volcanic ash how the planet's doing. Want to know if the planet's all right? Ask those people in Mexico City or Armenia or 100 other places buried under thousands of tons of earthquake rubble if they feel like a threat to the planet this week. How about those people in Kilauea, Hawaii who build their homes right next to an active volcano and then wonder why they have lava in the living room?
There we go. I think that's what we call lazy content in the business. No, I'm kidding. I actually really wanted to play this in its entirety for a reason, which was, first of all, like my second son has Carlin as a middle name. If I had my way, it would have been his first name. George Carlin is just amazing. But I think in the context of all of this, I think you need to understand a little bit about what I'm about. But he strikes upon some of the things that are, first of all, but like related to Twitter. First of all, complete lack of perspective in terms of, removing verification checks as an existential threat, which, is never not funny to me. Okay. But also, early on in it, I love seeing people under pressure because people show you who they are when they're under pressure. Okay. When I'm under pressure, I tend to go, it depends. Okay. When I'm under like a arbitrary pressure that I feel is imposed on me for bullshit reasons, I'm a tyrant. It's different. Okay. I go into perfectionism. But when I'm under a sort of major pressure, as in obviously there's major pressure, minor pressure in this sense, right? Major life stress and sort of day-to-day hassle, inconvenience, okay? One thing that it surprises, me and others around me, which is that I will moan about the smallest, dumbest things. I moan all the time about dumb things. I can't deal with people chewing. I mean, obviously that's a sensory thing, but I get annoyed. I grumpy cunt. But when shit goes down, I am the person who goes in. I dive in. I am there. I show up. I'm there to help, and I'm calm. Like when there's a death or anything that really goes down, when shit really goes down, okay, with a few exceptions where, maybe I wasn't in my best sort of frame of mind, I tend to show up when shit's big. Now, whether you think shit's big or small is That's subjective. But a lot of people have lost a sense of proportion over this stuff, but also can't differentiate between something that is annoying, something that is irritating, something that attacks them or their motivations, or that their motivations might not be pure, or something that make, a learning experience in order to become a better person, versus an existential threat. Now, we know that that's called, there's lots of different words, but when identity is at stake, it is very, very, very stressful. Okay. And this is one of those sort of perfect storm things. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I want to just go back to what I thought, what the value proposition of Twitter is. I'll talk a little bit about that. But I think, first of all, we need a sense of proportion about all of this stuff, as our mate George said. Second of all, I think that what we're seeing is, there's a few different things here, which is that people have been kept in a heightened state. This is a sort of an unintended consequence of the dopamine factory, which is, I think, that there is a large-scale dopamine dysregulation that's going on, because it's people, basically, the thing is, you can't make a generation of narcissists promote narcissism, make narcissism your business model, profit from that narcissism, and then act surprised when a narcissist acts like a narcissist does when they suffer a narcissistic injury. Okay, 1 point. So nobody should be surprised by this. Like I said, I'm an Entropy fan. I enjoy the chaos. But we also need to remember that news is mostly entertainment. Okay, if you've studied the humanities at school, okay, or at university, and you've done any media studies, one of the first things that they say, aside from the fact that most people don't understand politics and political structures or have any in-depth understanding of anything, which is that the media thrives on that lack of understanding. The media oversimplifies issues. The business model, right? But, Noam Chomsky, manufacturing consent, the propaganda model, turning point work, okay, was that the business model, even if you are independent, even if you are treated with as much independence as possible, even if the newspaper, for the most part, does good work, the business model still creates an incentive to, not critique corporations or government. In the United States case, those things are fused. It is an oligarchy / kleptocracy. We can quibble over which word it is, but it is a plutocracy. I would argue it's actually a kleptocracy at this point. And we are seeing things fall apart. People no longer trust the water. Okay. But then you've got, in that piece, he called it in the 80s. My dad My dad would call, they were called yuppies in nowadays. Now they're called something else. Let's just go. Maybe we should just call them yuppies. Maybe yuppies is probably a more accurate thing because people know what that means. But, we're seeing it. I'll talk about this more tomorrow because it's going to be more funny and lighthearted because I'm going to roast the shit out of people who are pitching a fit, where you've got Schrodinger's checkmark. All these people who think they're saving the world, they think that losing the verified badge is an existential threat. And they care about it all so much. But they think everyone's going to die. That was funny. People will die. People have died. Okay. People will die because I lost my blue check. Well, but I'm not going to pay to stop people dying, even though I'm pretending to be the good guy. Do you not understand this duplicitous, backward? Be honest with yourself. You're pitching a fit because you like the sticker and you like the power and you like the clout. And it's just so fucking tedious. This is, there's so much. I imagine that there's going to be so much. If you're in cyber psychology right now, I'm out. I'm doing law because there's obviously immediate threat here at the moment. And I'm sort of thinking that I'm more of a legal brain anyway. But there's so much to study with these events and the build up to these events. And especially if you're paying attention and you want a PhD, fucking look at doing a study and interviewing people who lost their blue check and doing a fucking survey. And then comparing it with various like personality disorder scales, then compare it with their childhood experiences and trauma, then compare it with socioeconomic status. And I have a feeling that I know, well, I couldn't do the study because I know what the result would be. But I have a very strong feeling that there's a strong correlation between, as we know, class, a certain cluster of like personality traits, and how you are responding to something so ridiculous. Because, like I pay for Twitter Blue. I paid for Twitter Blue before you got verified. Actually, honestly, in the hope that it would get me verified, that they would offer this. This was before Musk offered to buy Twitter. This was back, 2021. When they first launched Blue and it was $5, I paid for it. I dropped out, I think, for 2 months because I wasn't seeing the value. But then, I had Blue anyway. But, because I believe in doing things differently. And but if again, I'll talk about that tomorrow. But remember, news is entertainment, and nothing is more fucking like less news than the people who are on Twitter. Like I tweeted this morning, like it's people who think that a 16-year-old kid, a 14-year-old kid who calls himself a journalist is a real journalist. There's this fucking PR guy who's not even in PR. He has no training. He just got clout by fucking, I've talked about him. He got famous by cheering on the premier during the pandemic. That's not he didn't have a blue check, but I'm just saying these are the people that are elevated. Murdoch media, gossip rags, bloggers, celebrities. I mean, like, fucking hell, who cares? It's I like the fact that there's a necessary devaluing. It's like a devaluing. He's basically just devalued, completely crashed. If it was currency, if it was a crypto coin, he's just crashed the coin, so to speak. And that's a good thing. That currency needed to be neutralized. And I think that might be part of his play because that's what he does. Right. So anyway, so there's that part. But also, he called it very, very accurately, and there's a reason why I play that in its entirety, which is that they only care about their own habitat. They only care about their own Twitter experience. They only care about their own interests. And they hide behind the cause. They hide behind the issues. They don't give a fuck. Because if they gave a fuck, they would be fighting for someone like me to have been verified years ago. They would have been an ally to me rather than fucking, attacking me. Because I've always done this stuff in good faith. They're only interested in themselves and they're only interested in clout. I care about the product. I care about a product that I fucking love. I care about a product that I've invested many, 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 many hours of labor into. Okay. And then actually I've got to write that down now. The AI fucking data thing. I'm going to rant about that next week. This idea that fucking Reddit and Twitter and all these people are suing fucking OpenAI now for their data. No, it's our data. Give us a fucking cut, dickhead. Where's the data dividend? Anyway, it's a whole separate thing. Actually, I'll write this down. Angrynomics guys. I'll see if I can get them as guests. I'm going to start doing guests now. I write on my desk with a whiteboard marker. It's just so much easier for my brain. But so there's that, right? So, this is what's happening today. So it's like, this is, I think it needs just to unfold a little bit more and I'll sort of do something separate. Also, I've already made a thumbnail, which is like Elon Musk is really wonka. So I want to make sure that I use that metaphor correctly and, so that it's at least consistent in my message. But but today I'm opening with the Entropy Fat, okay, which is that these people are only interested. So it is actually it's a really interesting psychological experiment. If you're a user experience person or in tech, you know that it needs to be done. Okay, you know that this needed to happen. Now, back in 2014, which is what I opened with, back in 2014, Twitter wasn't profitable. Okay, Twitter was actually struggling. Twitter's always been struggling. They've always struggled with monetization. They've struggled to be profitable, okay, especially profitable enough to be a public company. A lot of the value in Twitter was who was there, the influence of it, okay. Twitter is a business that didn't have any real product other than data and other than, obviously access to celebrities, journalists and stuff. It was like it had a cult following. A lot of these sort of design decisions were made, they sort of built these things as they unfolded in real time. Like Twitter was built in real time. If you've been on there since the beginning and what it started out as and then how it evolved and how it was a very lean, it's something that you don't see very often anymore, which is a really lean, cutting edge, building on the fly, taking feedback from users, implementing new features, and, like doing that sort of really rapid iteration, okay? That's called lean product design, okay? That's lean. That's the lean product process, something I can, on my tech channel, talk about a bit more. But what you need to understand is that Matt's here. Awesome. So I'm just talking. So Matt's here. Awesome. Hello. I'm in the middle of a thing. But that's okay. Hello. Me. So there's context here, okay, which is, first of all, how long Twitter, okay, that's too big. Hang on one sec. Where's me? Hang on one sec. Thank you for showing up, actually, because that helps me to edit this on the fly. Sorry, hang on. You're going to end up covering my face, fuckhead. Come here. Where are we? Overlays, chat. Okay. Is Mrs. still there? I haven't been on Facebook. I've been too busy dying and healing and shit. Okay, hang on. One sec. Width. Let's make it 400 by 400. Let's make it square instead. That should help. Okay, that's along the side. What? Sorry, thanks for letting me do this, by the way. I appreciate it. Okay. There we go. It's a bit better. I'll fix that with CSS later. So this is the story of Twitter, okay? And look, the thing is, I could write 3 books about Twitter on its own, and I have. Like, I started to look at my notes, and as I said, like I distilled all of my streams into into Notion. One of my things was to develop my workflow for, from iteration, idea, scratch pad note like that, and capture that, create a thumbnail, my whole workflow. And, but then also like to post to the website as a blog post after a stream. So getting that real rapid workflow and automations happening so that I can do more rapid content. And, part of that was to use Notion's AI to sort of, summarize things into dot points. And when I did that, I realized just how much has happened just in the last year, let alone in the last 15 years. But Twitter as a product, it's always struggled. Okay, so let me go back. So Twitter as a product has always struggled. Okay, its real value was in fans, celebrities, all of that stuff. 2014 was a real turning point because they'd been public, they were struggling. There was a lot of sort of, few dramas around like CEO and, Jack Dorsey. Oh, there's a big history there. Okay. However, so there's all that kerfuffle there, but there was the annual report showed I think they had only made $500 million, which I know it sounds like a lot to your average person, that a business only makes 500, but for a public company that had had so many employees, so much overhead, it requires a lot of staff, not as many as they had, but it requires a lot of manpower and innovation, and especially attracting the best talent to build a product in this way. Obviously they weren't running a profit very well. They weren't, they really weren't guaranteeing a return. So that's why the problem with Twitter was very early on. It was never addressed in the beginning. And unfortunately, this thing compounded. Okay. Now, so In 2014, I'm just going to show you because I couldn't find, like I said, I approached Twitter in 2014 off the back of that annual report. And I said, I think I know how to fix this. Here's a white paper, which the white paper I can't find, but I did find an old notebook that had this in there. And I was like, fucking yes. The fact that I've got drawers full of scraps of paper and like notebooks with the first 10 pages before I abandon the notebook is a blessing because I just happened to find it. So let's have a look at this. So what I started to do a presentation, and what I did was I took Twitter through as if they'd hired me like as a consultant and they wanted to, increase their, to just, how to fix Twitter. Because I really cared about Twitter. A lot of joy, a lot of friends. It's not about the clout for me. It never has been, even though having it taken away really fucking sucks. I do empathize with those who are worried that they're going to be losing their audience. I get that. Okay, I understand that. However, that's been happening for years as well for people like me. And if it means paying an extra $20, then so be it. But I've always believed in Twitter Blue. I've always wanted to pay for it. I've always thought that this was the way to go and that you paid for preferential treatment with Twitter Blue. And I paid for Twitter Blue before Musk took over in the hope that I would get at least maybe some support so they could fix my account. I would have maybe some form of whitelisting or maybe even verification, but I would have an into Twitter so I could get verified like I was supposed to be like before it all went to shit. So in 2014, I actually wrote this, and I might actually try to flesh it out again because I can remember it, but I just can't. I can't find it. I think it's dead. It's gone. But what I did was I started with what is the value proposition of Twitter, and this was again 2014. Now I'm gonna have to make this bigger because I can't see shit. Hang on. Hang on. I'll look at chats later, Matt, because it's okay. So what's the value proposition of Twitter? So the value proposition in business, if you don't know, is what is the thing that makes you unique and valuable? Okay. What is the proposition? What are you selling? What is the thing that you sell that differentiates you from everybody else? Now, that might be, in the case of something like Coke versus Pepsi, or the Republicans versus the Democratic Party, the value proposition for the Democrats would be woke shit. Everything else is the same, but, there's a slight spin on it, okay? Coke versus Pepsi, all sugar water, but people are ardent, committed, crazy, insane supporters of that because that's what branding does. Branding gives you a value proposition where, that might be equal to other people. That's where marketing and advertising fits in. If you'd studied economics, you'd understand that demand is inelastic. You've got elastic and inelastic products. Branding, marketing, your value proposition is the thing that makes you more elastic, so you can charge more, and that you not artificially, but increase demand, so that so that people will pay. Okay, so there's lots of ways to explain this theoretically, but I'm just saying, like, this is just a little bit of like theory for different people and from different places. It's not just about the blue check. Okay, it's about a value proposition in a market where Twitter has a value proposition that is unique. Okay, it is. It's extraordinarily unique, and it's why they won't fucking leave. They might, but again, there is anyway. It's a whole side thing. What is the value proposition of Twitter? And this was in 2014. After I had been running fan communities, this was 3 years after I went viral myself and experienced Twitter and doing what I do, which is crash test dummy shit and reporting back. Which is this I do the shit that data doesn't measure, by the way. I do the shit that only 30 years of experience can do. At this point, that was 20 years on the internet when I wrote this. Was it? Yeah, 2014. 1994 was the first time. Okay. So the value proposition of Twitter is for artists, celebrities, and this is more broadly for the internet as well, social media in general, to connect with fans, to connect with customers. They can find their true fans, okay? So they can, reach more people, okay? And find those few fans that are willing to give them money and who are loyal and who get what they're about. I've always been all about true fans principle because, you know, I don't please everyone. I'm a black jelly bean. There's people who will buy whole bags of black jelly beans, okay? But I'm not, I'm a black, you know, I personally hate fucking black jelly beans, but I'm saying like that you don't want to be in the bag of different coloured jelly beans. You want someone who'll buy a whole bag of your jelly bean, okay? Does that make sense? You want someone who will buy the whole fucking bag and eat them all. That's what you mean by true fans. You don't want to be someone who, hang on one sec. Let me just. One sec. Okay. Thank you for doing this, Matt. Actually, thank you for chattering away. You're helping me to test on the fly. That's good. But so, you know, you want to go and you want, you know, like I said to my son the other day, I was like, I only have, you know, I have 11 patrons, okay? 2 of those pay on the top tier. Not the top tier, the one down from that, okay? One's taking a break, but, you know, generally I'm saying, like, you want the highest value people, okay? There's 2 people who give me more than 10 people would give me, and, you know, generally, okay? So that's one thing. That's about true fans. There's people who buy and are loyal and will do anything for you. Those are the people that the internet allows you to find, no matter your product, okay? Now, the flip side to that is that, you know, if you're, you know, violent and aggressive and, you know, or have a, like, you know, a fetish for various things or whatever, that you're going to also then find other people who have the same thing. But that's obviously, that's the balance. That's the flip side of all these things. Everything good has sort of an unintended consequence or a downside to it. But so that's the value proposition of Twitter. It was always that. That is what I sold when I got, you know, a handful of people on early, okay, where they were, you know, obviously they had profiles and I was running their communities and various other things. And I said, look, you might want to try Twitter. The reason why Twitter's great is it was first sold because Twitter actually had a feed, an RSS feed, I think, early on. And you could use it as a widget on the website to show, you know, sort of your day-to-day sort of updates. So part of my reason for putting it in there was, first of all, it's just more as a tool for, you know, broadcasting the minutiae of your day, which is something that fans love. Fans love the minutiae, okay? Fans love the little bits and pieces like, you know, eating a donut, fucking all that stuff in the moment. And it creates that intimacy and sort of, you know, where people become more loyal, they're engaged. You're not just buying an album, you know, and putting it on the shelf with all the other albums. You're putting it on, you know, you're actually engaging. You feel, you know, you're building a relationship. Now, I'm not going to explain this. This sounds like sucking eggs, but I think it's really important to go back and remember why this internet, this social media thing, what the value actually is and what it was taken. Because I think that, you know, this is why I'd love to write a book. I wish I could write a book about just this. And unfortunately, I've seen now that there's, you know, these ideas have now been like caught on by people with bigger platforms than me. So I don't think I'm going to get included in that voice. But I've been saying this for many years now already. There was a bait and switch with the internet where we lost our way, where corporations took over and it became sort of slowly gentrified. But the original value proposition of social media still sticks, okay, still stands. And it's the same thing with AI, but I'll do an AI video separately as well. I've got one of them planned for next week because that's another whole thing that like moves every hour, okay. The problem is this stuff moves really fast. And the problem is that everyone who is able to, I said this to Paul this morning. I said, first of all, I woke up and I went, oh, fuck, he's done it again. Because I actually didn't think he'd be deleting the verification because they've said they have before. But I didn't think he would. I thought he was just having a bluff, but he actually did this time. So, and I woke up and I had all this stream prepared, like, where are we to date? For the last year, because it's coming up on a year and since Musk offered to buy Twitter and 6 months of ownership. So I thought, well, let's look at where we're at. And then obviously I woke up to Paul. I was like, he did it again, didn't he? I was like, yep, I'm ready for a stream. So I've decided that I'm just going to continue on as usual, acknowledge that that's happening and move on. But the problem is that, again, much like our friend Mr. Carlin suggested, that news is entertainment. Okay, the media will take the simple take. They'll take the easy route. To be an expert, it's going to take me a week. It's going to take me a few days to go and digest and, you know, look at what's happening and have something original to to share. Unfortunately, then people will take my original stuff and then cut me out of the process. That's part of it, but that's okay. That's part of sharing and sharing alike. That's open source. You either have a scarcity mindset around the internet or you just have an abundance one, and you go, no, my time will come. It'll be okay. So you just keep doing good work and better work, and you just be better and it'll be okay. That applies everywhere. And it's not a dismissive be better in the context of like capitalism and stuff. I'm saying just personally, in terms of personal growth, just try to be better. Because then you feel better knowing that you tried your best every time and you're trying to be better. You're going to fuck up. It's going to take time. You're going to fall behind. You're going to lag behind, but you just got to make sure that you run your own race. Now, the people who don't do that and they want shortcuts, like a verified check mark and like, a rich dad and a platform that, they potentially didn't earn, or they earned by being nasty or being, then that's that, like, of course they're not going to do the work that it takes to see the material facts and the actual problems around this stuff. Of course they're not going to, and that's okay, but I'll just do my own thing. But so the value proposition of Twitter was always, so little old Taya on the internet, alone, isolated from her immediate community, living in a small city in Australia, in the most isolated city in the world, literally, okay, able to reach out and find true fans and make a reasonable living and not have to worry about fitting in. Like there's a real argument there around fitting in with, like neurodiversity and all those sorts of things, which is that you don't have to fit in. But then the internet obviously insisted that we all fit in. And that's where it was like, well, that's not the deal. That wasn't the deal. The value proposition was this. You sold me this. I put 60,000 something, now it's like well over 100,000 tweets into a product that didn't deliver on what it promised me. You didn't deliver on the value proposition. What you did was you wasted 25 years of my life telling me that otherwise I would have gone and fit in. I would have gone to the networking events and not sat there snarking all these. Anyway, but I'm just saying, you see what I'm saying? So the value proposition of Twitter is marketing, direct, to find your people, to find your crew, find customers. And this applies as much to an indie musician and a photographer and, a celebrity as it does to a major corporation. Find your crew, okay? But then obviously corporations didn't like that because they had to compete. Coca-Cola had to compete with boutique cola, okay? Coca-Cola had to compete with other ideas. Coca-Cola had to have something where people were saying that their products weren't very good for you. Coca-Cola had to compete with someone other than Pepsi. And we see that that's what occurred. I'm surprised. I'm waiting to see how many people say it's Hitler's birthday. I told ya. I can't wait. But it's for networking. Like I made friends and I've also made professional relationships. I got when I was a web designer and only working in web design and only doing agency stuff, I'd get clients from, I hate these things. I'd get clients from there. Some of my early clients I met on Twitter, okay? People that are friends to this day. Okay, people, I've had such tremendous value out of Twitter, okay, in this regard, to help promote others. So if you're already famous, you can promote other people. You can lift other people up. And this was something that we lost, okay, because it became all about narcissism and people who don't pay it forward. But I will always, if I get extra reach, I will promote you, whether you got a blue check or not. Like if I like your work, I will it doesn't matter if I've got 100 followers or 100 million followers. I don't give a shit. I'll help you out, okay? That's just how I am. So you can help promote others and lift others and, all that sort of stuff. You can find new projects, like I said, brainstorming ideas. And that was a big value proposition for me, which was just going on. I had a good little fucking roasting storm this morning and I was just letting jokes fly. I was riffing and laughing about, I made a joke about, like I said, Schrodinger's check mark, where it's both the most important catastrophic event to happen and I won't pay $8 to fix it. It's pretty funny, right? and to build relationships over time. I've got 15 years on that platform of consistency, of being trustworthy, being real, being myself with my real name, having nothing to hide, warts and all. Okay. Again, this flipped. This was written in 2014. Okay. And discoverability. Okay. And then again, and this was the question, because I was going to present it to as a pitch, which is, how much do you save with this platform? Because obviously, remember, I was running a business and I'm like, how much? That's always the question. The only way you can sell something that people didn't want to buy before is to either emphasize on something that they will, that there needs to be, what's in it for me? There needs to be something in it for them. And so the value proposition in Twitter is how much you save and how much you gain. Okay. So you gain independence, you gain freedom, you gain the ability to reach your true fans, and you gain the ability to get all of these things, okay, which, yes, you can get ordinarily on Twitter. So then the conversation has to be, okay, let me rephrase this for editing purposes, okay, which is you already get all of this value from Twitter, okay, which, like I said, connect with fans, find your true fans, work with existing fans, marketing. You don't have to do paid ads. You don't have to pay on Google. You don't have to pay on Facebook. You can just organically market yourself, right? You can get discovered. You can help promote others. You can build community. Okay. All of those things. You build professional relationships. Those things are expensive. They cost a lot of money. So you get that whether you pay or not. But to get people thinking how much they actually save, if you can put a dollar value on how much they save, a blue check, like paying for a verified subscription, is fucking nothing, okay? And this is how you fix Twitter. The problem with verification, this is from 2014. It's arbitrary, selective, and divisive. So this is what happened with the blue check in around 2012, which is that they implemented it as a verification. Nobody has a problem with needing to verify that people are who they say they are. Okay. Nobody has a problem with that at all. In fact, I prefer that. I think that's a good idea. But what happened was that it actually became something else. It became a caste system online where this was allowed for blue checks and everyone else was considered less than. Okay. People like me, I qualified actually for my check mark because I'd gone viral and I had been writing a few op-eds. I actually met the criteria for a verified mark. And I thought, well, Taya is Twitter. There was a point where I was Miss Twitter in my town. I was Twitter. Okay. I was the go-to person for a lot of it. Okay. Oh, don't swallow ice on a stream. But I was the go-to person, right? So I thought, well, I'm going to get verified because, I didn't see it as a sticker. I saw it as that exact thing, which was I was undergoing harassment. I was going through a divorce. I was, being harassed, all those things. And I applied for verification. By the time they got to processing it, I'd actually changed the rules and shut it down and decided that it was arbitrary and selective and all of these things. So obviously that was a problem. I saw that happening before my eyes. I personally experienced it. I had 10,000 followers on my old account in 2011. Yeah, 2011 when I shut it down. I shut it down for 6 months. So in 2011, so 10,000 followers was quite a lot. That's probably, if you look at it like 1970s money, it's worth about 100,000 now if I'd had organic growth, right? And kept on and it'd have been the same. Easily 100,000, if not more than that. Okay. When you got to plot the trend, the growth trend, and then eventually my trend just went fucking like that. So again, these things are based on, it's not just a personal grind. It's actually data. I can actually show you the data that shows that I was on a certain trajectory and it was limited. Okay. For these reasons. So it wasn't transparent. So when there was no transparent process, there was no clear process for it other than knowing someone at Twitter or being a major advertiser, spending a lot. I figure that I think it's disingenuous to say that you could pay $15,000 for a blue check because yes, you could technically, but a lot of it was linked to ad spend. So if you were spending a lot of money on Twitter, you had an agency, and you would have a direct contact. So that happens with YouTube. That happens with every social media platform and the ad team. You then end up having someone that you can contact. And if you spend a certain amount, you get access, which means you're more likely to be verified and go through that verification process and all those things. So, it became pay to play. The verification process became, if you worked for fucking Mashable, you were and Mashable decided that you were a spokesperson on an issue that you know nothing about, Matt Binder, then, people like that, or you were running a blog, a Gawker blog, or you were an intern at the ABC, you were getting verified, whereas people like me who weren't tethered to an organisation were sort of left out in the cold because, first of all, I wasn't spending that kind of money on Twitter for ad spend, okay, because there was no real value proposition because I could always do organic on Twitter. I was always able to do organic work. Twitter, I could play it like a violin. Okay, it's easy to do, and that's how I knew that everything had broken post 2017 because the things that would work before were not working anymore. And again, this is just reverse engineering from, my own experience, right? And this is, I think, part of the problem. This is where the sexism comes in, I think, a little bit, which is where, nobody sees me as a legitimate and credible expert because I'm not in the club, and that's okay. But I know I can quantify this stuff, and I know my shit. And some experience you can only get with deep, deep understanding of how these things happened with history. It's almost like someone said that you can only understand history if you can only diagnose problems of the future if you understand history and really take the time to understand it. I wonder who said that. I don't know, some commie. I don't fucking know. Anyway, it was Marx, by the way. But it creates confusion and resentment with users, which it did, okay? The only, I can't read my own handwriting. What does it say? I can't read my own fucking writing. Oh, the only value proposition that existed was to say, I'm famous. That was it. It lost its verification. So it's actually a bad faith argument at the moment to talk about verification process as it stood in 2011 or 2012. That's not the case. It hasn't been that since then. Okay, I think it's a straw man. It's dishonest, and it shows you don't know what you're talking about because nobody is in disagreement with you on the need for verification. We agree on that. What we don't agree on is the fact that that's not what the product is or was, and because you benefited from it, it's much like people talking about the free market and business, and it's like, yeah, and then turning around and saying, oh yeah, it's like a self-perpetuating fucking cargo cult, basically, which is that, oh yeah, well, it's all fine because the process is fine. Oh, here we go. People who fall back on the founding fathers of the United States, where they're like, there was a thing where they're like, oh, Gen Z, 40% of Gen Z think the founding fathers were evil. And it's like, well, okay, well, that ignores the fact that the principles of the founding fathers were good. They were probably, they were great. It's a testament to how magnificent a document can, how a vision can get away from the reality and practicality of it, which is that, and that's to turn around, and this is what right-wingers do, which is that they argue with, funnily enough, they're all right-wing, all these blue checkers, but, most of them, they are, or at least conservative or pro-capitalist on their face, right? I know I'm waffling a little bit, but I'm just forming an idea here. But they're just, this idea that we're not talking about the founding fathers. We're not talking about what happened around the founding of the country. We're talking about what's happened now and what it is, not what it was. What it is. And this has been the problem with Twitter, is that people keep arguing with the wrong things. And the verification thing, again, it was supposed to serve that purpose, but it didn't serve that purpose. It changed and it became a badge of celebrity, and I'm famous and I have the endorsement of the powerful, and I have, all of these things. It's obvious if you follow any journalists that are worth following, they didn't get verified. Okay. And the only reason some did was because they were freelancing or formerly worked for things like the ABC or whatever. So, it wasn't because they were if they were starting over now as an independent journalist, they wouldn't get verified. Okay, so let's just cut the shit. Now it doesn't match up. Hang on. Oh, so it doesn't match the value proposition of Twitter, okay, which is democratic, inclusive, and direct to fan, okay? And the question mark here, does it even make money? Okay, it didn't make money. And that's the thing, is that they got lucky with Trump, but it ultimately just, people fell away from it because it became a circle jerk, right? Yeah, it's about as effective as trickle down in economics. It's like trickle down clout. Give me my blue check and I'll definitely pay it. It's like working for exposure is the trickle down economics of the internet. Okay. Don't work for exposure ever. So that's that. It wasn't even that profitable. Okay. And that was the thing. And I sat there and I said, well, let's rethink this. How to fix Twitter. Good luck reading your own fucking handwriting here, Tay. I'm going to move over here so I can make it bigger. Hang on. There we go. Actually, let's put it over my face. Let's do that. That's a much better fucking photo. So, how to fix Twitter and make it profitable. Sell verification as a subscription with a sliding scale. So basically this is different to tiers, right? Based on number of followers. So for example, Ricky Gervais pays more than like your local football team. The organizational, it's opt-in, obviously. They have an organizational account so that people who are employees or whatever are clearly identified. For example, if they're a record label or a studio or a business with a number of accounts or affiliated with that business. Okay. 2, micropayment transactions in either subscription, as in monthly subscription, or a one-off donation. For example, you could charge for DM. So if you're like Ricky Gervais or Kim Kardashian or, all that sort of stuff, you could set how much it costs to message you, and people who, and obviously this works alongside the same thing, still organic, still works alongside that, but, you get higher ranked replies, right? This is 2014. I'm just going to point this out over and over again that this was 2014 that I did this. It's opt-in, still operates as usual. It's just that dollars equal perks. The option for verifieds to have greater control over their experience. For example, hiding replies and sorting them and, all that sort of stuff without having to block. And they can only see paid responses if they want. Like that just makes that flexibility there. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but, again, just having the functionality there and having the platform get out of the way and let the user decide what they want to do and how they want to monetize it is not putting this ad model in place where they tell you what you get. Okay. And also just allow to pay for exclusive content and access. I pay for that. And also part of the argument was, this is where it descended into chicken scrawl, so I gave up. But that's a marketing cost for anyone who runs a business. So, how much would Ricky Gervais pay for like his audience? I find it funny that he hasn't joined Twitter Blue. I'm just going to keep on this, which is it's a marketing expense for people. And I was like, this is how you make money from Twitter, which is that you go where the value is, which is don't give anything, only rank it in. So for those like me, like let's say I had my 100K followers that I should have. Okay. Let's say that I wasn't like cut off at the knees. I should have been able to choose whether I prioritize subscribers or I wanted to see everything from everyone or not, and be able to communicate that with my community that everyone is welcome, everyone is equal, everyone has equal say. Okay. I also would like the opportunity or the ability to control that with filters and say, look, I only want to see the subscribers. I only want to be able to post this content and I only want to receive DMs from people who are on a certain tier, right? That's what Locals have done to improve their product, which, I like that. But it is fucking annoying when you're trying to message someone and they're like, you got to pay $50 to message me, but that's okay because that's creator driven. That's a good way to think about it. But I talked about this. This was 2014. I wrote all of this down. There was a whole other section in the paper because this was obviously just my starting notes. The paper had a lot more to it and a lot more sort of data. But, this is a marketing expense. And Ricky Gervais has been publicly on record, I'll use him as an example, as saying him pissing people off on Twitter saves Netflix millions of dollars in marketing. The controversy on Twitter saves people money in the end. What do you save by using Twitter and getting these things to an audience? And the answer for someone like Ricky Gervais or someone like a celebrity is millions of dollars in advertising. And the least you can do is say, okay, well, I'll pay $50,000 for this feature. Okay. And that goes into a pot, okay? this is how a co-op would roughly work, okay? Which was that, you know, I'll pay $50,000 because I've got like that many million followers, but I pay, you know, a few bucks a month or whatever. Like it's a sliding scale. And also if you're a not-for-profit, then you could, see, obviously the wheels fell off of this because of that network of not-for-profits and bullshit fucking disinfo, all these fucking corporate sponsored like PACs and shit now. This is obviously a loophole that they would have taken advantage of in retrospect. But in the paper, I said that if you were a not-for-profit or, you know, something like that, that there would be like a special discount or educational, whatever, okay? And you have a student rate and all those sorts of things, okay? But it was a buy-in. People staked in. And, you know, and also let's just remember that not-for-profit doesn't mean no money. It means no profit. Not-for-profit means that any money made goes into the business. This is one of the problems. Yeah, we're a not-for-profit. Yeah, we only don't have any money. Yeah, you do. Fuck off. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, but I'm just saying, like, some sort of process of exemption where if you were being sort of limited by the platform, you know, so again, you know, some of these things would have had problems. Everything has side problems and what ifs and contingencies. That's where things work themselves out over time with a product and you start to have various policies. But the problem is that all of this happened with the decision to instead go to the advertiser model where those who spent the most owned the platform and those who had the most clout and influence paid nothing. And this is where we ended up here, which was that people don't pay for it. They don't understand that they're actually saving millions of dollars in marketing costs. They take it for granted. Because I know what it costs to run a paid pay-per-click campaign on something like LinkedIn. LinkedIn charges you like easily $10 per click, okay, minimum, depending on where you're targeting your ad, okay? It's not cheap. Facebook, it's about probably... because of the bot problem, every customer probably costs about maybe $500 to $1,000 to a worth of advertising to get like that's worth it. That's why I don't tell people to buy it. Don't bother buying AdWords unless you're selling like, you know, an expensive product or the lifetime value of a customer is higher than, say $10,000 because it's just not worth it. Because bots and click farms and all those things just eat your budget. Like they just eat it. Like you can't, you just, anyway, that's a whole other side thing. But this was the problem with Twitter in 2014. Now, so this is something that this is why I think I needed to explain why I back Musk more than I would like to, because of this, because he sees the same problem that I see and saw very early on, which was that this was headed in this direction. It was a problem, first of all, of it being a public company and not making enough money, which meant that they were having to do things that were the antithesis of what was good for the users and good for the platform. Okay, so taking it private, I think going public was a mistake, and I think Jack Dorsey actually acknowledges that going public was a mistake. He acknowledges quite a lot of things that were a mistake, and I think that big thread that he did, where he talked about some of these things, where there were key critical turning points that had nothing to do with Elon Musk, as part of this stuff, where it went wrong, and I think that the problem is that because everyone is so much, and again, we can put one thing I'm doing is writing. I'm actually working on an article at the moment around, the key takeaway with Marx was this point, which was that there are no new problems. You have to look at the history. You have to dissect it. You have to diagnose it properly. If you don't diagnose things properly, you will not get the solution. You won't be able to fix it. Or even worse, if you diagnose the problem incorrectly, you can make the problem worse. And this is what we're seeing, which is that people are just operating on these premises that, are, faulty. Okay, which was this idea that the data was correct. The data's not correct. So researchers have been researching Twitter since they, first started with their API, their open API. But the data's wrong because it's been manipulated by bots since, for years and years and years and years and years. How can you do research or anything meaningful if you, first of all, it's just being manipulated? if you're banning everybody who might express a more complex view, and you are just trying to control narratives, it self-perpetuates, which is if you're in the business, this is why narrative is so fucking like dangerous and sinister, this narrative control on major public spaces. This is why the real threat to democracy is this model and these blue checks, not this fucking, the model that, a decentralized, democratized model, is that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy and problem with, I forgot what I was going to say. Let's try to see if we get it back. Can someone remind me where I was going? Fuck. I was going to make a really good point and I forgot it. I'm still on painkillers. Still, my brain's still. I'm just a bit more extritated, but it becomes a chicken and egg. Oh, sorry, a race to the bottom, a chicken and egg problem with what you control the narrative, so you suppress voices. Then those who are getting the data don't have meaningful data. So even those who are good faith, hang on one sec, even those who are fucking dirt, even those who are operating in good faith and think they're doing good work are working with faulty data. So we're coming to the wrong conclusions, and then it just keeps spiraling in that direction. And this is why making sure that with all these data sets, making sure that those things are as open and free and accurate as possible is really, really important, because researchers have been relying on Twitter. But honestly, if you're researching anything on Twitter and trying to make any kind of conclusions about sentiment analysis, if you're not controlling for the bots, and if you're not controlling for the fact that I'm not gonna fucking keep harking back to it, because it's one of those key examples, which is the gender issue, the trans issue, which is that you can see how a junior marketer who doesn't know what they're fucking doing goes on Insights and goes, this is popular. Oh, look, even the most savvy marketer will look at Insights, look at data, go, oh, look, 70% of people support this idea that trans women are literally women, not women for all intents and purposes, because they've been bullied and suppressed and mass reported and all of these other tactics through various bad actors that are trying to manipulate this debate in various directions. And then you have data that you can then use to rationalize you being an idiot. Okay, this is where this is where the difference between someone who could look at an EKG and go, there's nothing wrong with you, and a fucking 20-year cardiologist who takes one look at the graph that no one else sees and says that person's about to die. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, and that's where it becomes this spiral, and this is where we've sort of gone into this spiral of research based on faulty data that is heavily manipulated. And yes, there have been some controls. However, the extent to which those controls are in place is limited. Sorry. Yeah, exactly. So there you go. I'm like Dr. House, but for the internet, especially social. Okay, there you go. I'm telling you, this was the big problem. So, but it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But that's obviously for someone like the US Democratic Party, where they're very heavily invested in this war machine, people with all the money, all the corporations, when you've got a kleptocracy fucking running the shit, okay? And those who cheer on totalitarianism and cheer on authoritarianism and gaslight you and make you feel crazy for having normal objections to a breach of your, your civil rights or whatever you feel, okay? Or if you're anti-war, again, it's only because when you find yourself up against a thing, up against something that is dogma and up against something that is being used in this fashion, much like the trans issue, it's got nothing to do with trans people. It is just a weapon that is used to divide us. There is a solution moving forward. Calm down. That's a whole other thing. But, right. Oh, yes. Quick break. Let me just have a look at your chats before you go. I'll just see if there's anything we can talk about. Hey, guys. I wish, honestly, I've been going through this whole career thing and it's like, I can't see how I could work anywhere but Twitter. But if you guys, if you know anybody, I just want to put myself at the mercy of anybody who cares about this AI thing. But that's, and it cares about this issue. And I will sit and I will just, I don't know if you go to my LinkedIn and fucking recommend me to people, which I said, even if I'm serving coffee in the fucking room, I need to be in the room on AI saying, are you sure? Are you sure about this? Are you confident that, like this, people like me need to be in the rooms right now. Refer me and tell your friends to give me money so I can be louder. Because again, unfortunately, when you're hired by people, you end up under NDA. So I prefer to stay independent, and I prefer for people to just sponsor me and like find a grant where I'm doing important work on my own. But that doesn't seem to be a viable thing. But again, maybe through Twitter that might happen. But we'll see how we go. I'm clinging to hope that maybe sanity will prevail. But let me have a look. So Dave the janitor. So yeah, even if I'm a janitor at Twitter, it would be nice. But I don't know. I think that it might need to be, I don't know, it's 50-50. Independence is extremely difficult. It's extremely rare. And it's also, if you've got 100, if I can tell you now, if you had 10,000 followers like me at 2011 and you got 100,000 now and were able to grow, you're not independent. Someone's giving you money behind the scenes somewhere. It's not, because I have tried to be independent and good faith and consistent and likable and own my mistakes and do everything the right way. And I work hard. I work around the clock. Like, even when I'm fucking recovering from surgery, I fucking show up and try to do the work. And it's like, we're seeing this at the moment, which is basically just people pitching a fit because they've lost their power. Sorry about the fucking, I got to cut these off. I usually cut them off, but this is new. I just put it on because I had a blue one on, but blue creates noise. If you know anything about cameras and kit lenses, blue creates noise on my thing. So even this light creates fucking noise. I don't know how to get rid of that. I got to Google how to do that. Anyway, so I'll get back into it. But I'm trying to make sure that if I make a point that I say it clearly, because I realize that my transcriptions need to be able to be summarized, but also I'm uneditable and also uneditable, I meant. Because Premiere Pro now has text-based editing and it has an AI that will recommend clips and stuff, that workflow becomes a lot more efficient if I speak more clearly and succinctly, and it will say, that's a solid quality clip. Here you go. We recommend you slice that and that and that. So that really helps my workflow. Obviously because I don't have a powerful computer or anything and not a lot of time, editing is one of the area where I fall down, as is the follow-up, which is the writing of the articles and stuff. But I'm consolidating that and I'm working on it. And I've spent a lot of time on a workflow that should mean that I'm getting a lot of stuff out like regularly soon. But yeah, do please. I mean, one thing I would like is, maybe I need an Engels. Not to say that I'm as smart as Marx, because no one ever would, but I'm just saying, right, I need an Engels. I need somebody who will just let me, and, I know Matt's a patron. I just need a few more of those, and I'm sweet and I'm golden. It's just, the cost of living is insane. Oh, wow. I want that T-shirt, but I don't wear T-shirts. So if you can, I don't know if they got long sleeve. But anyway. So anyway, but yeah, I really, again, it could just be a big cope. Again, there's always that voice in the back of my mind, like today, where I was like, oh my God, have I backed the wrong horse on this, like with Megan Murphy or like, Posey, have I backed the wrong horse here? Or the trigonometry, those things. Have I backed the wrong horse here? And it's like, well, maybe. But it's tricky to tell until later on. It's really tricky to know whether you have fucked up until later on, and it's 50-50. And because I tend to be, because I again acknowledge some of the problems with Twitter that they're endemic. They've been needing to be fixed for years and years and years, and unfortunately, those who are. This is the dilemma. I'm annoyed that people in tech are letting their judgment that again, their distaste for Elon Musk cloud their judgment on something like Twitter. And it's been very sad to watch my peers in tech who started out as really great thinkers, good people, wanted to change the world, turn into these people who don't understand what the internet was, because money kind of does that to people, and money and clout does that to people. It's really, like I said early on, it's really, really devastating when you've got your identity fused. It's called identity fusion as a concept to Google. But when you've got identity fusion, when things show up to threaten that identity, it hurts. It physically hurts. Okay, it's very difficult. I go through that a lot. I've got a high pain threshold for that, mostly because I think that I tend to dissociate with real trauma. So if I'm not dissociating, then I'm obviously, like having to push through it, and that makes me a little calmer. It means I know that when shit gets really bad, I'll forget. Not that I'm joking. But, I'm just saying, I'm not like a full DID or anything. I'm just saying for general. Google Plus was, and Google, but did you know they've still got Google Plus? That's pretty funny. Like, it still actually exists in workspaces as a collab space. So they're still trying to get it to work. I find it interesting because Google does have a place. They do still keep the tech active. So I'm wondering whether, they will. Fucking Google. We could talk about Google Buzz. Actually, I need to have you as a guest, Matt. We got to set that thing up as well. I'm ready to start with that now because I've fixed all the tech problems. So let's lock that in, and we'll talk about some of these tools as well, and some of our let's get nostalgic. That's the idea of User Story Hour, which is the nostalgia. So this should be good. But unfortunately, we've got, you can acknowledge the 50-50, the nuance on this. Like, there's a disturbing stat coming from Tristan Harris, and I've been obviously critical of him before, but he's pretty good. He's one of the more prominent critics at the moment who's saying, hey, guys, one of my criticisms is, hey, you did it. You spoke out after you made millions of dollars. But I can, I've been saying this for years and just refused to do the work. But who's smart now? Who's the smarter one now? Because he's got a platform and I don't. So, but whatever, let's take this out. I don't need it anymore. Take my earplug out. But there's this stat, which is that I think there's 50% of engineers who are working on AI think that there's a 10% or greater chance that AI could be an existential threat, like could wipe humans out of existence. And so, I'll talk about that another time, but, these things, it's like, but like with Twitter, it does come back to that, which is that there's people that have been saying that Twitter is gone and a problem for years and years and years, and they were cast as lunatics. They were prevented from growing. They were suppressed. They weren't allowed. They were left out of the room. I'm unemployable now. I'm just unemployable now because the things I want to talk about where I have worked on things, I'm under NDA. And, if I were to work for anybody else, I'd be under NDA. And if it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake, we just need to solve this problem. Oh, I need Google Bard access. I haven't had a look at it yet. I'm still playing with others. I'm using Notion I'm getting my life in order first before trying another AI. But I'm going to be doing more AI work. But you also need to understand that there is also a tipping point with that as well, which is that it's not AI as you're talking about large generative models. They're very different to the standard. They're like the LLMs. They're very different to like an AI. It's very confusing. Okay. For people, which is the AI also shifted, and Transformers. It's called Transformers. I need to actually put a Transformers sound on my soundboard, but
all this computer hacking is making me thirsty.
But yeah, it's called Transformers. But Transformer, whatever the fuck. But it's different, okay? And that's why you've seen this rapid descent, ascent, exponential growth in AI. But I'm veering off point. That's for next week.
Elon! Elon!
So back on topic. So I was in 2014. It's going to be a while. Not really. But I think you need to really understand that it's been now a year. So this, I think it's very important that you understand that Twitter wasn't started in 2016. Okay. Trump saved Twitter and imploded everything else. So Twitter as a company was saved in terms of it artificially propped up a business model that wasn't working, and it was bad for users. And anybody who knew that these problems existed in 2014 knew that a figure like Trump would ultimately break it, okay? Would ultimately do this. None of this is fucking new, all right? And this is another reason why I support Matt Taibbi and his judgment, okay? Because he's written about this. There's all this history where you go, I know who to trust in this space. I know who's full of shit and who doesn't know what they're talking about, which is the vast majority of fucking commentators. And I know who does and who's written books, and, like Grifftopia, Hate Inc. Those books are fantastic. They really do talk about that. Obviously, he's got gaps too, where he understands things to a certain degree, but he's not technical. He's not a user experience designer. He ends and I begin, and there's expertise. But we can work together to solve the problem if people could just calm the fuck down. But so when Elon Musk sort of offered to buy Twitter, there's a lot of this stuff that ended up sort of, hang on, I'm mumbling again. Let me get my head together. Let me get my dick bottle. I'm very thirsty. I need a drink. I'm sick. My hair's not red, by the way. I just got to fix the fucking color grading, and I need toner. But I'm enunciate. I need to walk with a book on my head. Where's the book? All the way over there. I moved everything forward. Hang on. The book on my head. Taya needs to talk like this from now on. Just need to talk like this. Let's see how long. Now let's see how long it lasts. There we go. Metaphor for my streams. Okay. I also have a thing in here now where I can hit a button and it captures a story. So there you go. I'm already in vertical mode. There you go. So exterminate. Enunciate. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So
Weekend, like first weekend. Oh, just thinking about her. I just wish I first
okay. Little break. Here we go. This is what my brain does when I get distracted. Okay. Anyway, so I think the context of the acquisition is really important, which was that it solved a few key problems, that it was a public company, that it was they were under shareholder pressure to inflate their user numbers. They needed to do that because they needed to tell all these fucking blue checks and media people and advertisers, the people that were paying the bills at Twitter, that they were going to be able to reach more people than they could. Like if you're in the ad industry, you understand that your reach and your potential reach is linked on how much you spend. I don't know if you've ever bought a Facebook ad or anything like that before, but you can toggle your budget. So your budget, you spend more, and you find a sort of price point which is optimal. And I can do this on the tech channel as well, which is there's a price point that's optimal when you're buying ads, which is that there's a law of diminishing returns with it, but you've got to find that sort of optimal space. Twitter needs to nudge that up so that the ad spend is higher. That's the incentive there. So you need to be able to tell them that their potential reach is X, million users or whatever, when really, in effect, it's probably more like, you're going to be getting impressions, but they're largely inauthentic impressions, especially when you factor in ad fraud and click farms and all those sorts of things, and that's a whole other thing. I'm going to have try and invite an expert on this very topic onto User Story Hour to talk about this, about click fraud. But and how widespread this stuff is, and how I think I've talked about it in previous streams anyway. But like $125 billion in ad fraud just last year alone, right? Don't quote me on the exacts of that number. I think it was 125, 124, something like that, wasn't it? But that's click fraud alone. So there's a whole perfect storm there of a business model with Twitter that isn't optimal. It was away from its value proposition. Then you've got advertisers running the show because they're the ones spending the money. You've got bots and troll farms who first of all want to inflate their numbers. So a lot of these people with 100,000 plus sort of followers, it's not organic. If you look at a lot of these accounts, a lot of them are just bots, okay, or fake followers, especially early on, and they haven't gone. Right, I had to manually get rid of mine, but there's still. I keep a sample of 250 bot followers, and they're still there because I do it as a test. Right, again, I use these things to test, and I keep a few to see how long they stick around, and they're still there. Okay, so once they're gone, I'll know that they've dealt with the bot problem. But you've got that part. So you've got people then you've got the human part of this, which is that you've got somebody who doesn't understand this history, doesn't understand that the business model's broken. They're prone to narcissism because they're, in an industry that sort of, it's very focused on the self. You've got people who are emotionally immature, emotionally stunted. They build a whole identity around being online and their clout and, their content and all that sort of stuff. I did that back in the early days. Thankfully, I learned before it got, I learned the hard way, not to write about my kids and to, retain some stuff for myself. I'll joke about things in my relationship or whatever, but they're very, very, I'm very private about, certain things. And even if I do share online some of myself, it means that I've dealt with it or, the person has my consent, or unless it's a joke or whatever. But, I do think about these things now. But there's a lot of people who still don't. They still see people as tools. They haven't gone through what I've gone through because I've got 10 years on them. And I see this crashing and burning. However, okay, that was a test yell for my sound. So there's that perfect storm. And then you've got obviously political interests, you've got geopolitics, you've got all of these other confounding factors. Then or compounding, sorry, not confounding, compounding, both. And you end up with this situation where the check mark becomes and also people with a check mark who were verified legitimately in the early days, and then you've got people who shouldn't be there, and then you've got people who should be there but aren't, but are willing to pay, and then you've got this whole mix of things, and then you've got some bad faith narrative shill like Matt Binder sharing things like this MF pay for Twitter, and it's like, well, you're a fucking idiot. You represent Mashable. Apparently that's a tech publication. What do you know? You don't know anything. Users do lots of different things for lots of different reasons, and people give money because they value a product. And for you to do that makes you a fucking asshole. And you show who you are with your reaction to this. And that's why I find it very interesting that, there's so much research in the psychology of this stuff. Seriously, it's really interesting. It's really a time for cyber psychologists to get in and deep dive into the reaction of if you're in the business of influence and internet studies and studying fans and parasocial relationships, and especially identity fusion and what happens when you fuse your identity with an influencer or a celebrity, and you are sort of somewhere on the celebrity worship scale higher up, and you have that taken away from you. The impacts of that are really they're playing out right now, which is really at scale and in quite high profile ways. Now, I want those people to have emotional support, because it is actually, as funny as it is also quite harmful. It can be quite harmful and hurtful if someone is not well and they are in a vulnerable position emotionally, and they are of the belief that, the fascists are coming and the Nazis are coming and everyone's trying to kill them. And they have just so much they have just created this worldview that you do have the potential for a Kool-Aid Jonestown situation at any point with these micro cults. Okay, that's another reason why I respect Tristan Harris, is because he's one of the few people leading in the space who's really talking about cults and micro cults, but not in a pejorative, not just calling everyone else a cult, but saying there's a lot of cults created, and this is like, it's getting like not cool, like it's really not cool. But he's one of the few that, I tend to, when people are using certain language that I have copped heat for saying, or I've, somehow been punished for saying it, and they're on a higher platform, I'm inclined to support them because they're saying what I need to say, and I can't get out there to say it because of all of the various things of mass reporting and all those sorts of things. I'm sort of shouting into the void. The one thing you can do is fucking like share my shit and tell people, even offline, go, what, like, please help this lady financially. Because I get that people can't talk about it. I get that people can't say things. You're risk averse. You're going to get fired. You're under NDA, whatever. But you can get in contact with me and offer to help me quietly. Okay. And that's, you don't want to pay for like Twitter, then don't. But you could support me for talking about it. Okay. Because I am trying to deal with the substantive issues in this space, and I've been punished for it a lot. And I don't think it's really, fair that, well, life's not fair, but, I'm just saying, okay. But the problems that are sort of, we're seeing them come, it's not about Elon Musk as much as, it's, oh, Elon, like that's my whole fucking, it's like the groan. It's not a sex, like, oh, Elon, oh, there you go. That needs to be a sound for my soundboard. Ah, Elon. What a load of oh shit. Oh gosh. But the what was I going to say? Can't remember. Forgot. What am I saying? Oh yeah, it's not about it's every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, what now? What now? Like, even if I want to work at Twitter. I want Twitter to hire me. Unfortunately, because I'm an idiot and I just rushed to get a CV out to get to like people. There was a typo in the intro. It's like, oh, you fucking, so there you go. I fucking, idiot. But, I still want to work there. And even with everything I've heard, because I believe in the product. And I know that might be naive, but like, I don't see anyone else. Like, it's easy to go, oh, well, I'm out. It's easy to quit things. It's really easy to quit. It's not so easy to fucking, solve and fix in good faith and be patient. Okay? Like, I have a love for Twitter as a product and as a vocation and all of those things, which, is wholly undeserved, I might add, from the last few years. But I'm still there for the grain of hope that exists with that product, okay? Because they did something marvelous. Facebook did something marvelous. Everyone who makes anything made something marvelous. Notion, holy shit, made something even more marvelous, and I'll talk about that another time. But I highly recommend Notion. I need to figure out how to get a referral code because I think you can become a licensed consultant in Notion, but I don't want to do config, so fuck that shit. But it's really good. I recommend it. But, like AI, like chat, they're marvelous. And the fact that people, I don't understand why people just want to destroy these things. What is in you? If you're just someone who wants to is it a jealousy? Is it jealousy? What is it that makes you see something that is innovative and marvelous and amazing and clever and a fucking work of art, modern day art, engineering and all these, that it is incredible, these products. And you need to wreck it and you need to kill it. And I go, what the fuck is wrong with you? That says something about you, that you want to wreck something that someone dedicated so much time to building. They were the kids in the playground who saw a sandcastle and fucking stomped on it. They were the kids who saw you stole everyone's Lego and smashed it up. That's what these people are, okay? And once you see it that way, you can't unsee it. Okay. And and again, it's not every blue check. See, there is that split between, the people who were verified legitimately, like, people who were already famous, showed up on Twitter, attracted people to the platform. But that was very much a pre-2012. And that did continue through. If you were famous enough, you got verified if you're on Twitter. That happened. But with this, again, you got to separate these two layers. And the thing that people like Matt Binder in particular, who I'm going to focus on, is that he pretends that his fucking blue check is legitimate when it's not. He writes for Mashable. He's nobody. He's a failed actor who just talks shit. He wasn't famous before Twitter and the bots that prop him up. He has no more legitimacy with a verified mark as me, who pays for it. He's got none. I'm just a business owner. I own a media company. I pay for a blue check. So did they. Okay? He wasn't famous before Twitter. If you were famous before Twitter, then I understand that you have a beef. If you are somebody who is an artist or makes things or creates things or makes music and art, and you do the right thing and you use Twitter because you just want to reach your fans, and I think that we do need to differentiate between those two things. Okay? I think that's fair. Maybe that's part of that process from my plan in 2014 that I talked about, which would be that you can pay for it unless you are someone, because this is how I ran my business. I said, don't do work for exposure, don't do free work, don't do spec work. However, that's a rule. Pay for it or don't, but if someone calls me and they've got 1 million people and there's going to be a lot of referral business in it for me, then I might reconsider a discount, right? Or something like that. If I believe in it, then I might offer it. And that was a better way to handle this, which was we're going to assess how famous you were. If you are dependent on Twitter for your platform and your fame, you should pay for it. If Twitter is a channel where you bring more people, right, and you bring people to the platform, then obviously there's something in that. Okay, that's what, I think that's famous in real life badge or something. Okay, but these internet fucking influencers who's only, they don't make anything, they just assemble ideas that they're basically they're just cardboard cutouts. You can replace them with anyone else who'll say the same shit, and they do. There's hundreds and thousands of them, and they'll just say the line, Bart. It's like, oh yeah, PR for the richest man in the world. Like, talking point, and they don't do anything creative, and all they do is wreck, and all they do is fucking pick on people like me who actually do build things, do make things, do the work, do create ideas from scratch, have ideas, present those ideas, put myself out there and get punished because those people and their fucking bot armies and troll farms can't stand the fact that I'm better than them. That does make it a level playing field, which is that it's not about the legitimacy of Stephen King or Ben Folds or Ricky Gervais or Kim Kardashian, because they bring people. You don't bring anyone. You're a mooch. And that's the thing, and that's the gap. Okay, that's where the legitimacy gap for the verification badge is. Okay, and that's the thing that we need to solve. It's the problem that needs to be solved. And this is what I would hope that maybe after this great reset, that eventually there is a process for that. If you have I want to reinstate the verification process. I want the paid verification process, but also another verification process for perhaps people who can bring an audience. There's a value proposition in it for Twitter for people who are going to bring their audiences over. Twitch and YouTube do that all the time. Hassan Piker, as much as he has a go at fucking Elon Musk, he's got signed to Twitch. He got asked to leave YouTube to move to Twitch. And he took a fucking deal because he was going to bring people to Twitch. That's business. Okay. And that's, I think that's a fairly reasonable thing. And like, why not? Okay, but that said, if you're that famous that you're attractive to Twitter, then you're probably getting enough benefit out of it that paying fucking $30 a month is nothing to you anyway, and it's a marketing expense. But I'm just saying there's other solutions than, like, it's not, again, it's just that black and white binary thinking, and that's why I can't stream and react in the moment, because these things take time to research, and like this has been an insane year for this product. Okay, so basically, Musk wants to solve a problem that has existed since, for years, which I agree with. I agree with the intentions, the original intentions. Do I think he's a shitlord? Yes. But it's funny. I'm an Entropy fan. So what? But he's also doing things that actually, like some of these things are necessary, where there's like a reset, I think, where he needs to alienate just enough people to, like, sort of clean house. But I imagine that he'll invite some people back. I imagine that he'll get, it's just, who knows what the fuck. I don't know what the fuck's going on there. But I do think that organizational account is good. But that should be a sliding scale as well. Like, I would want to buy a check mark for, all of, not all of my accounts. I only have like 2, which is my official, 3. I've 3 accounts. So I run through, but I don't run the other 2. They're just usernames. They're just the Rapscally official company account, and another account that's there as a backup in case something happens and I get banned. And I'm probably just going to get rid of that account because I don't need it anymore. But for the most part, it's it would be good to be. I don't want to have to pay 3 times for that. I would pay I'd pay a subscription like. Like Netflix, where you can stream to like 4 devices or whatever. So you can have up to 5 accounts under that one Twitter Blue subscription, like a family account. I'd prefer that, like a small business thing, than having, because I'm not paying fucking $100 and something a month for just to have the check marks for, my son, who I technically represent, and, all those things under the company. And if I was to, have my official Rapscally account, well, I'm not going to pay $1,000 a month for a company that's basically me anyway. That's silly. So they've obviously got to iron some stuff out there, but it's a start. And but I did want to talk about sort of where we were to date, because I did want to talk a bit about some of the. Obviously Matt Taibbi has said what I said with the last streamer. Unfortunately, the audio was so dog shit that I'm going to have to write that out, and then I will write it as a post, which with the workflow I'm getting, might make that a bit easier. So having it auto-transcribe and then edit that way, and then I've even also been trying voice training, so I might be able to sort of, do something there. We'll give it a go. I wonder if you could actually repair the cutouts with a voice by writing what you're saying over the top. I wonder if that's a possibility. Anyway, let's see how we go. Because it would be good to be able to fix some of that audio. I'm playing with AI tools as well, so it's exciting, terrifying and exciting. That's tech. It's always terrifying. It's always equal parts horrifying, and you're 51-49 on any given day, and you flip from one to the other. But some of these problems most of the problems we've got are human problems, right? But that's okay. I was going to talk more about sort of. So Taibbi said that it was a misunderstanding around Substack and that sort of stuff. Musk is obviously a bit of a loose cannon, but I also understand why he might think it inappropriate and Matt Taibbi not trustworthy. God, I got to get a treatment. I got to do my hair. I'm trying to get it to this so that like my grey roots are like not grey but like blonde. It's a really strong, annoying process. It's driving me nuts. But we'll get there. What was I going to say? Obviously I can understand why you might burn a bridge there, because he went public. He didn't try to resolve it privately. He kind of went off the rails a bit and went, and shots were fired. Like I said, I hope that can be resolved. And the Twitter files, was valuable in this context because a lot of it was making. I think I want to explain that. Actually, if I can stick around for another, I might actually just keep going, and then I'll keep filming and I'll keep streaming. And what I will do, because I actually had all these notes on the Twitter files and what they were and why they were important. And that was what this was supposed to be, which was the timeline from sort of 2014 right the way through to the offer, right the way through to the Twitter files. But that's just way too much stuff. But what I might do is film it and then edit it later and turn it into a thing. So I'm sitting at the desk. I'm here. I'm streaming. I may as well. And if someone shows up, then someone shows up. It's like
good at rocket.
Oh shit, Notion. I haven't got it on this machine. That's the problem. Hang on one sec. That was the thing I forgot to install. 1 second. Do. Okay, so where's my notes? Okay, so I've got this outline because I was actually going to do a timeline, but I'm actually going to turn this into a timeline graphic for my website. I'm going to turn it into a thing. It's just a matter of having the time. I've just got to sit and write it out and you know, all of that stuff. Like some of these tools do make it a lot easier to extract key points, which is fantastic. And then I can write like paragraphs and stuff around it. So that there's tremendous value in that. But I'm going to make a timeline because I want you to get a sense of just, right up. So you had sort of 2014 to 2016, Trump broke the internet. Trump broke the social media platform. Well, he broke the internet in general, okay? Because basically Trump did what the Kardashians do, but for politics, and he broke the internet, okay? That's what he did. And it left the business model was not fit for purpose, but that was something that happened around the time that Twitter went public, and they weren't profitable. They were in their several reports. Jack Dorsey was on the back foot in terms of profit, and that pressure was on. They started turning a blind eye. And from a business point of view, they started turning a blind eye to the fake engagement because they needed to inflate their user numbers. It was a win-win-win situation, which was that the data, but then people started to rely on that data and think it was meaningful. They started to think that the most egregious troll farms and bullshit on Twitter were indicative of people's real sentiment, which is not the case. They were, starting to think that there was more support for certain ideas and political positions and various elitist sort of, like the inner circle shit. Like I said, people that are worried about their own habitat, lecturing everybody else, people who are super online, who have all of these qualities and who get rewarded for being an idiot and rewarded for their elitism by various institutions and moneyed interests and dark money and all those sorts of things. And there's this whole marketing playbook of funnels and, all that stuff that I've talked about at length. And people are just generally sort of being nudged in certain directions. I mean, that I've said before, I wish I hadn't said anything about the gender stuff. I would have just, I know when my bread's buttered. I know that it would have been a lot easier to not do that, and I'd be a lot more fucking, influential if I'd kept my mouth shut. But I didn't, and I can't, so it's out there. But I also know that there's a lot of people who do that, and that's okay. Because, that's how it is. But that was the nature of the platform. But people were taking their opinions as consent and that they agreed when they were actually just saying the line. They were just saying the line and they were just going along with it because most people can't afford to lose their jobs. Most people can't afford to take a political stand. Most people can't afford to, I can't. But I just happen to be a political scientist and I've sort of, obviously leaned into it and come out the other side as, knowing about this stuff. But at the end of the day, most people can't afford to be political and especially take a stance, especially when 90% of the people around them are just saying the line. Okay? And if you talk to who I talk to, who talk to and I talk to, you all know that everyone thinks this woke shit is bullshit. Okay? And if you fall for it, you're an idiot. But, there are real issues there, and I am on the left, and I will stay on the left, and I will do left-wing analysis. This is Marxist analysis. This is real analysis, not this fucking, corporate, sponsored by Coke and Pepsi United States version of what it means to be on the left. That's a centre-right position to take. You are part of an aristocracy. It makes you on the right. If you are a rich kid who's been handed everything, who doesn't see consequences, and who doesn't even consider the working class and doesn't consider class politics, and in fact considers the class, lower socioeconomic groups and oppressed groups as icky, you don't give a fuck about the planet. You care about your own habitat. Okay. So I ain't leaving. I haven't left the left. The people who say that are also liars and bimbos. Okay. Don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So there's no such thing. But I think you need to understand the context of this stuff. So, so basically it started in March last year, right, where Musk started criticizing Twitter and saying these things that, it feels like a lifetime ago. And like when you see the list of things that have happened since then, it's just absolutely fucking insane. And it's like, so he took, remember, if you look back at April, which was a year ago this week, I think, no, yeah, about a year ago, he went and took a 10% stake in Twitter. Okay, so it was basically a hostile takeover. He was invited to join the board, but he declined. Okay, because obviously he then offered to buy Twitter for $44 billion and take it private, which I think, one of the things that people forget is that he bought a not-for-profit. Elon Musk bought a not-for-profit for a cause that he believes in. Okay, again, that's the charitable way to look at it. Okay, I can't see why he doesn't believe that. Because I agree with the premise of what he's doing, but he bought maybe you look at it as he bought a not-for-profit. No, of course not, because you're the people his critics are the ones who are greedy and who only do things for money. It's just a big fucking projection. Okay, now I'm not going to assume that I know his motives, but I can't see there's no evidence that I can only take him on his word and what he says, and I'm very good at spotting bullshit, and I can't see, I've said this before, he's autistic for a start, so that makes his ability to be dishonest, it means that there's tells. He also has a stutter. Well, it's not a stutter, it's called, he's got the same form of stutter that I've got. Right, which is the one where your brain works too fast for your mouth, and then so it makes you sort of a bit weird, and so that again, there's a whole thing. But once you understand these things, you can actually go, no, I think he's telling the truth. He means what he's saying in the moment. Again, I can tell. But again, that would require you to see me as legitimate and trust me and trust that I know what I'm talking about. And that's the premise on which all of this is built, which is the fact that I know my shit and that I'm not an idiot and that I'm actually an expert. And so I can't ask you to do that, but whatever, I'm saying it. But anyway, so, but remember, he offered, there was that whole process around the board. But what happened was they offered for him to join the board, but his issue was with the incoming CEO, with the CEO and the board and, the people that were on the board, which, as you may have noticed, sorry, my mouth's drying out, blah, blah, blah. You may have noticed that, I've done this before, which is when you look at the composition of the Twitter board. It was people from president of Salesforce. It was people who are deeply embedded in hedge funds. It was hedge fund managers. They're his enemies. Why would he want to join the board? Okay, so that was his thing. So he went large and said, well, fuck it, I'll buy it. All right, this needs to be bought. Let's just take it on face value and be a bit more fucking charitable. And also just trust me when I say I have seen very little evidence that he is lying in the moment. He might say shit and realize it's slightly more complicated, or he hasn't thought things through, or, but I do that too. I say shit and then realize and go back on it when I realize, it's probably like I hadn't thought it through. Okay, but so do you. And honestly, seeing who his critics are makes me think, well, there's smoke and fire somewhere here. I've got to say, the people that there is at least a small part of this, which is when I see who his critics are and who is angry at him, that I'm inclined to believe him, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend in this case. Okay, now I'm not saying he's my enemy. I'm neutral on Elon Musk. He's entertaining. It's funny. He's tech. Tech guys are funny. Anyway, you either get that or you don't. And then, so obviously Twitter's board, because of the fiduciary responsibility they have to shareholders, had to accept the buyout, right? But then he put the buyout on hold in May because he found out that the reports of inflated user numbers, which we all know is true, okay? If you know anything about anything and use Twitter for 15 minutes, you know that they were inflating their user numbers, and they said it was 5%. Musk had his own people audit Twitter, and remember that he commissioned some expertise, and he said, okay, well, based on my audits, I'm going to back out. But that's a sales thing. That's something that you do, which is it's a negotiating tool. And then they're like, he backed out. It's like, no, he got more information, and he decided that he's going to try and reduce the price down. But unfortunately, like, again, that was just a matter of saying the wrong thing and going away and going, fuck, okay. But, he's explained this position repeatedly, right? Which was that basically if you buy something and it's not what you think it's going to be, then before you close, let's say you're buying a used car, and then in between, that's why you get a 7-day warranty. That's why you get a cooling off period. He was trying to exercise a cooling off period once he got more information. Okay, that's fair enough. Now, should he have done due diligence before that? Yes. Was he an idiot to believe that they weren't inflating their user numbers and making sure that they qualified that in the contract? Yes. That's why he settled, and he kind of went, all right, well, I'm copping so much shit for this. Maybe I shouldn't. But then I suppose that with the reaction to all of this, I would feel the need to double down into that too. So I think that, again, the people who are in the business of narrative and leave parts out, which is the most charitable take. Now, I try to see him as clearly as possible, which is that there's made mistakes. And I'm not a big fan of he can handle things better. Like my son said this morning, he's like, you can only piss so many people off before, it really does start to, have an impact. But, again, the premise is that I know what I'm talking about and that I can read people and that I'm an expert and that I'm going, it's 50-50 here. Let's see how it goes. And based on who's criticising him and based on the reaction, and where there's smoke, there's fire here. And that was I'm always going, well, why was the backlash so severe? And then they started saying that Saudi Arabia owned shares in Twitter, but they did beforehand. Then they started saying that billionaires own Twitter. They did already. Then they started, it's just like, what's going on here? Okay, so there's obviously some narrative protection. There's something going on here. And that was why I just decided to just lean into it and go, lean in, ladies. Sheryl Sandberg said to lean in. I'm going to lean in, motherfuckers. Okay? But, I lean into it and I yes-and it and I go, okay, well, I can see kind of how, based on these reactions, that there's probably something to this. Now, and this is May. This is a year ago. All of this with me, I was like, oh, all right, well, am I on this train or not? And then I was like, no, let's see what happens. Let's see how this goes. So, obviously, in June, so he just threatened to terminate it. Okay. And that was basically, based on the fact that there were more bots. And I imagine once he went to Twitter headquarters and saw what he was about to buy, he was trying to sort of, pay less for it. Wouldn't you? If you bought a fucking gum, let's say you bought this cock bottle. And you needed a good time. And you thought you were going to have a good time, okay, with this thing. Let's ignore the straw for a minute and pretend it's a dildo, okay? Imagine if you sold this, you bought this on Wish, and then it turns out that I'm actually just this big, and you came and it was like the size of a keychain. You'd be upset, wouldn't you? You'd go, I want my money back, and I will pay 30 cents for this, not fucking $3 like I paid at the party store. You get what I'm saying? It's fucking common sense. It's negotiation. And then obviously that went to the league, blah, 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 blah. So he went to and when Twitter said, nah, fuck you, we want our $44 billion, he filed with the FCC to back out. Again, that's just like whatever. Twitter threatened to sue, all that shit. And then obviously, I think that he was unprepared for his backlash as well. It surprised me too, right? And I think that I think that was a turning point based on what I've seen, where he was like, well, I'm in it now. The lawyers are saying it's a long shot. I'm going to be spending a fortune here on lawyers. You know, I just think how, again, maybe I'm transferring myself onto Musk and I'm being too charitable. I'm open to the idea that I'm like severely wrong and misjudging the situation. But again, I can't think that I am based on who his critics are, because they're the people that needed to go. Does that make sense? And they were a big part of the problem because I knew what the problem was. So basically, you know, like there was all this sort of back and forth in June and then the lawsuit, all that sort of stuff. But there comes a point where there's a writing on the wall where you're like, well, do we want to go to court over this? Oh, God. Okay, let's just fucking, all right, I'm going to do it. It needs to be done. Someone's got to do it. This is bullshit. All right, let's eat it. He bought a not-for-profit. He made a decision in that moment to maybe buy it as a not-for-profit, maybe had financial advice that he can offset, because obviously Twitter is now no longer Twitter as a company. It is now under X company, X Corp, and now if he rolls that debt, he can offset the losses from Twitter elsewhere, and that's like just a smart financial decision, right? He would have had advice around that, so he can absorb some of the losses of Twitter and write as write-offs elsewhere. So that's good. Like that's a good move, right? Because that frees up more money for some of the things that he wants to do. Okay. Because, like you said, Twitter's hemorrhaging money. It always has been, and this is the funny thing about that whole reaction, which was, you pay $44 billion for a company that's not worth anything. You bought it not for profit. You just want to make money. It's not worth anything, but you're not allowed to buy it. It's like, these people are so stupid. Like, it's either valuable or it's not. It's like, anyway, it's a whole thing. It's like, it's either valuable or it's not. Like, you don't get to just, I don't trust anyone who's got, like I said, these morals of convenience or principles of convenience where they've got no principles. They go where the fucking, they go where the wind blows, which is that like, he bought a company with all this, like overpaid for a shit product that is really, really important and you can't take away because it's mission critical stuff. And if you fucking buy it and ruin it, it ends the world. Like, which is it? Which one? Pick one. Pick a lane. Fucking self-driving car is more consistent than you. Stop crashing into the side of the fucking road, dickhead. Okay. See what I did there? So yeah, he decided to make good on the deal and all of this stuff. So they closed the deal. Fires the CFO, Vijaya Gate and Agrawal, and he also fires the general counsel. Okay, so they're the four main people who he perceived at the time to be sort of central. Yoel Roth decided to stay. He thought, well, maybe he did do it. Maybe I've also seen. I want to qualify that, which is I've also seen people like Yoel Roth, Esther, what's her name, the head of product. A few of these people who stayed and then decided to leave afterwards. And I go, okay, well, I take these things, on balance, right? It's not black or white. But obviously then the layoffs happened, which unfortunately I've talked about that. That was necessary. There's not much really we can do. And also Musk fired the first shot. The whole industry is in that way. I still think like Twitter was bloated. There were too many people working in the wrong areas and not enough people working in the right ones. I think there's not enough people working in the right ones at the moment, which I think is something that I know that they're hiring in trust and safety in various other places. And because I've been talking to some of, I know that they're hiring because I'm applying to work there. I don't know whether I'll be able to, or I don't even know whether I want to. It makes me nervous. The thought of working under something like move, because if I was going to do anything meaningful, I'd probably have to move to the US. And for me, for us to uproot our whole life and move to the United States with the political instability, but also, going through all that stuff of, uprooting everybody, moving across the world, you want that to be solid. You don't want it to be like you're fired on the spot. I don't want to be at the mercy of at-will employment or anything like that. And obviously, then have to be, stranded in America. I mean, I'm sure you can monetize being fired from Twitter in that respect. But then obviously you sign NDAs and things, and there's complexities there that I sort of weigh up. Again, it's a hypothetical at this point, but I'm just saying they're things I've thought about, which is my ability to talk about these things out in the open as an expert in this specific niche. That's rare, because most of the people who can talk about these issues are internal or former and, under NDAs. So I'm in a fortunate position where, people can, I'm not a journalist, but people can talk to me and tell me stuff and help me out, and I can, be your lightning rod. That's fine with me. If you're a tech whistleblower, come to me. I'll tell you a story, okay, quite happily, because, I'm happy to be a lightning rod. And I have a company for all those things. That's why I protect myself with a company. I protect you as well. So, but yeah, so that's when he confirmed plans to charge for verification. And again, that was something where that was necessary and needed. And I was already subscribed to Blue. Excuse me, I get value from Blue because, I like to test the new features and see what things are and, all that sort of stuff. And, over time, they've sort of made good on a lot of the promises. Like, I wasn't able to access community notes because I was constantly getting strikes on my account, even though I've done nothing wrong. Apparently, I was not able to sign up for community notes. I couldn't sign up for a professional account. I couldn't use the ad platform. I couldn't log into Twitter Media Studio to go and download or access or even delete old videos. Or anything like that I couldn't manage anything because my account was just considered shit. Like, I haven't done anything wrong. And I got desperate, to the point, this was around, back in, I put in a privacy complaint to Twitter, which they rejected and ignored. Unfortunately, I just didn't end up pursuing the complaint with the government, and I put it on a hold with all of these changes. But I was quite willing to sue them over this, because I have experienced material loss. I have experienced reputational damage and all of these things as a result of just doing my job and being good, for doing the right thing. And I am actually a good use case for a test case in this instance around the fact that I didn't sign that contract. I signed an unconscionable contract, and it was not, I signed something that was unilaterally changed, and I was then forced to, this notion that you continuing to use a platform is implied consent. That hasn't been tested properly. Okay, there's a reason why they settle, because it's not. I don't think it has any grounding. Do you know why it doesn't have any grounding? Because they keep stats on the onboarding screen. So when they announce a new terms of service and you click I agree, they keep stats. They know that less than 1% of people, if not 0.01% max, actually read through to the end. And the people that do that, we have stats on it. So the thing is, they can't say. So basically, they know that people don't sign the contract. And there is precedent around fine print laws, especially around used cars and various other things in consumer law, around fine print and cooling off periods and all those sorts of things. And so, there's a legal argument there for it being thrown out. And I was quite happy to pursue that. And that was my angle. But I'm putting it on pause right now because they seem to be making changes. Now, what I would like to do is maybe sue pre-Twitter for the fucking losses years ago, but we'll wait and see. But I'm on this. Okay. That's where we need to go. Okay, these things need to be tested in superior courts. So he confirmed that the paid verification, which again, that was just so I got my check mark. Now I'll talk about that separately at some point. I'm writing a thing about why you should pay, and I obviously did a stream about that. That one is a nice little self-contained stream, so that's fine. I will try to edit some of these things together into another separate video because mostly we're running out of time, but the things that I were okay and coherent, I will just move on from. Now, obviously, that went badly because he hadn't thought about things. He just went implement straight away. Now, he learned that the hard way. I saw that was going to happen. I got in quickly and thankfully was just retained it. Okay, so I just kept it, and I keep my subscription active, and I'll keep it as long as I need to. And this is, again, one of the big misunderstandings around credit card verification, which is that it is not just about a credit. So here's an example. I was at a parking garage at the hospital because I had my 2-week post-surgical appointment checkup at the hospital, and they've got a parking machine, and it's credit card only, and a woman was trying to pay with a prepaid credit card, and it kept knocking her back. They wouldn't let her pay with it. They've got the technology in platforms like Stripe to detect like a real credit card versus a not real credit card. Okay, they can flag this stuff. That's called Stripe Radar. Stripe Radar is really sophisticated financial fraud, credit card fraud detection tools, and Stripe also has a suite of identity verification through that process, and so do Apple, and so do Google, and so do these. So what he's doing is leveraging those platforms rather than building their own verification process. And basically, I imagine what will happen is that they will roll Radar, they will roll I can't remember what the other, but they've got all these much better technology from Stripe than Twitter could ever build. So it's like, well, use that, leverage that. That's smart. I've talked about this before. But linking to your credit card, it does reduce some of those problems. And those things do actually use a number of, like Twitter, they use a number of different signals to determine whether this is a legit transaction or not. Now, because I use obviously if I use a card with Stripe, because Stripe is a payment processor, if I use the same card a few times on Stripe, because I use Paul's credit card from time to time, right? Or I use, say, my business card or whatever. It's still linked to me because there's been no fraud. There's been no reported fraud. There's been no chargebacks. So it's eventually over time learns that it can be whitelisted, against you, even if it's not your card technically. But if you're suddenly using an all new credit card or burner card or, all of that sort of stuff, I don't know if you use Afterpay or ZipPay or anything like that, they let you roll a credit card number. Or at the post office, prepaid visas, they can reject those. A lot of places do for security reasons, right? You can't buy gift cards with, you can't launder, like those sorts of things with prepaid cards. Like Woolworths don't let you buy certain things, even on a prepaid visa or using gift, those things. These things are all in place is what I'm trying to say. And so to turn around and say that anyone can just set up a credit card means you don't understand anything about how it works. Now, unfortunately, because I think he, again, I think it was a misstep with the, it was funny. It was a misstep, but that was just because I think, let's just say that they didn't have their processes in place correctly to so allowing name changes and then allowing someone to use a credit, and say they are whoever they are, and then attaching verification to it. Obviously, that has pitfalls. But also, you got to understand in tech, sometimes when I talked about with that lean UX stuff, some of the biggest lessons are from the mistakes. And so if you can observe reactions, I think a big part of what he's doing is observing the reaction to various things that he wants to put in place. Because he's A/B testing shit, right? Which is he's seeing what happens when X happens. He's seeing what happens when X happens. See, that's part of that's how tech does things. Okay, that's why I love tech, because I'm an Entropy fan, so to speak. Because I'm curious, and I do. So there were some learnings from that, which was that obviously changing the name and being able to use a credit card that way has some loopholes to it. But also that's where some personal responsibility comes in, which is the fact that you didn't have to do that. You could have not wrecked the platform. You could have gone along with it and said, yes, I understand that there's a problem here, not tried to be a dickhead. This is the problem, and this is the problem we've got with AI, which is that the people, it's like, people need to take personal responsibility and not just wreck everything, first of all. But also, obviously from cybersecurity, people are going to take advantage. That was a silly thing to do, which was to allow people to change their names and get a blue check And, but what that did was reveal some of the gaps. So, again, sometimes companies like in cybersecurity, that companies will hire someone to deliberately hack them or deliberately fuck shit up so that they can learn from it and patch it, right? So there is an argument for that as well, which is putting stuff out, seeing what happens, plug the holes. Like that's actually like pretty common and savvy, but doing it out like this, I wish he would communicate this stuff better. That's what I wish he would do. I wish he would value comms a bit more and listen to people a little more about like that he could have waited a little while and like thought this through and talked to stakeholders a little more and implemented it. But, again, there's learnings. Sometimes people just go, yeah, let's crash it and see what happens. Like I tend to be that kind of person. Not so good when you're somebody who's making fucking cars, especially self-driving cars, but that's just a tech thing. And it's not a unique to Elon Musk thing, okay? It's an approach, okay? And it's a legitimate approach because you'll actually get more by teasing shit out of things than, anyway. I need to take a break for 2 seconds because I need to go pee. Just give me 1 second, okay? I'm going to take 2 minutes. All right, let me just take a break. Have I got a break here yet? I don't have a break screen yet. All right, I'll just put music on for 2 minutes. I'm back. Sorry about that. Thank you. No, I don't think there's anyone here anyway, so that's okay. It's a long stream. So like obviously like there's so many plausible explanations for a lot of these things, right? And but yeah, so obviously the implementation was not solid. Okay. But you got to think about, where are we? Like the way he handled the layoffs and things, that really, again, I'm not going to defend it. I'm just going to say like it's a tech thing. And I've said that before. Okay. So what I might do is when I edit this, I will incorporate some footage from previous streams. I think that might be the way to go, where I talk about various things, and I'll turn it into sort of a 45-minute thing. I'm going to try and go soon because I'm just starting to fade. I obviously had surgery 2.5 weeks ago, and I'm fading a little bit, and I will be exhausted for the rest of the day. So I might just maybe sit and edit because that might be fun. Okay, so But yeah, I mean, then he had all of that standoff where the advertisers, claimed to be leaving and people are pitching a fit, but they're also basically kind of also doing what Musk himself did, right, over the acquisition, which is they're sort of strong arming him. And so, they're going to do that. Like everyone, like I found it really interesting actually, where, who's strong arming and who's trying to sort of exert influence. It's a very strange, if you sort of use a metaphor of sort of geopolitics and you understand sort of the rhetoric and the the taunting and the sort of the threats, the empty threats. What's a real threat? What's an empty threat? It does feel a little bit like sort of, a Cold War between sort of Elon Musk and Twitter versus, others like established power. Like I don't know, they're not going to take it lightly, especially given, what we found out in the Twitter files. Right? So there's all that sort of lead up, right? And then obviously he started to address some of these problems. And a lot of the problems that I think have been addressed, he needs credit for, because I've had direct access to Ella Irwin over some of these things. Like I don't know how she manages. Like she must be a absolute beast. And she's been nothing but lovely and kind and accommodating and all of those things, and took the time to understand and implement. But obviously, not commenting a lot, because you can't, especially when I'm sitting here saying that I might sue. Like they can't just go and admit certain things. But I have observed that, like, a lot of the stuff that I have been saying was a problem, and they are implementing it, and they're seeking feedback on stuff. For the first time ever, Twitter is seeking feedback. They've open sourced the code. We learned a lot from that. I actually want to redo that again, because I want to actually revisit that as well. That might actually be on a tech channel thing, but we'll see how we go. There's no reason why I can't do both. But the code is quite revealing, and it does sort of, show some of the things that I have been talking about over the years and where they are, where these problems lie. And it's been really good, because they're actually implementing changes behind the scenes, because now I'm able to sign up for a pro account. I'm able to sign up for, I've been using community notes. I highly recommend that you use community notes. Fact check people. Make sure that, don't put it's not for disagreements. Replies are for disagreements. But if you want to do some fact checking, it's perfect. It's great. Community notes is amazing. And you put in a thing, you make sure that you put in a reliable reference, and as long as you can be succinct and put in a reference and say that's not true, and then it gets voted up and upvoted and downvoted like Reddit. And then if it gets a certain number of upvotes and uptoots, then it ends up with that note. That's a fantastic process. That's using the hive mind for good. And if you're sitting around just misgendering trans people all day and you're bored, why don't you do something a bit more productive, like joining community notes and actually putting something into them? I'd love to know how many of the people who don't pay for a blue check also won't do community notes. They won't invest anything because they don't do anything. They don't build. They take. They're literally. The one main criticism of capitalism is exploitation and rent seeking. Okay. And so if you're a left winger, okay, claiming that, you're not going to pay for something that is made by other people, a lot of other people that are highly skilled, and you won't use community notes and put it back in, you won't stake into a technology product, you will destroy everything that other people make, you're not on the left, mate. You're a landlord. Sorry, you're exploiting the labour of other people. All right. So, as is Musk, but that's, again, not 1 or 0 here. Okay. But then obviously, Apple and Tim Cook, and, they've resolved some of these things. Now, I think it's been what's been really interesting is the movement of other tech companies out of this, which has been that Musk has sort of been the one that fires the shots, and everyone's watching, right? Facebook have implemented their paid verified. I'm still weighing up whether I want that, because I don't use Instagram, so I don't really have, or Facebook. It's not really my primary. It's not really where my audience is, but I will also stake in if I can see the value in it. Now, Facebook are obviously trying to get me to use Reels. They are trying to heavily push me. They've even keep giving me notifications that I'm like one of their top rising creators on Facebook and all that sort of stuff. And so obviously they're trying to love bomb some people into going, but there's no real way to monetize on Facebook, which, we'll see. But they're following suit. And then obviously tech laid off everyone, but no one caught the heat. Like Musk he's like me, I think, which is that I'm not afraid of being a bad guy if it's the right thing to do. I don't mind, again, maybe it's because I've got kids and like I've gone through a divorce and I've been, gone through all of that shit where I've had to be the bad guy and I've had to just be at ease with being misunderstood. I've had to be at ease with being mischaracterized. And it's like, well, I'd rather people pick on me than on someone who is not mentally, well, or someone who might, hurt themselves. I'd rather be the bad guy and push through and do what's necessary, then, like I said, I'm somebody who can be relied on in a crisis situation. Or, I'm not saying this is a crisis, but when things are difficult, I'm somebody who's quite reliable. Most of the time, not really. I'll moan about everything when things are good. I need a crisis to function. But still, right? But then in December, you had the Twitter files, okay? So he, obviously approached some of these so you got to contextualize a lot of this stuff. So alongside the Twitter files, they've been making product changes behind the scenes. So they've been trying to sort of audit internally, like a lot of the code. They had no real visibility on like how things worked, and sometimes things have to break before you know. That's a tech thing. Again, if you are trying to shoehorn a predictable project management waterfall fucking approach to something like Twitter, then you shouldn't be in tech, and you definitely shouldn't be working somewhere like Twitter. You've got to have a high pain threshold for these things because you are on like, as long as he didn't compromise on cybersecurity, as far as I know. The only thing he did was 2FA, and they had plenty of warning for that, and people weren't using it. People had plenty of warning, and also you've got your other authenticator apps and various other things. You just considered it redundant. I agree. Like text, and it costs a lot of money. So people will move. Okay. That said, it was funny because Matt Walsh got hacked. So like someone didn't listen, but that's going to happen, right? I'm not being glib. I don't like people being hacked is not good. Like I don't, even people I don't like, funny, but it's not a good thing. But that is also it's somewhat inevitable, okay, that people are going to get hacked from time to time. But what they've tried to do is open source the code, change the product, fix some of the but I've had a visible change. The only thing that hasn't changed at the moment is the mass reporting problem and the follow-unfollow problem. So I'm still tracking people who follow-unfollow me, and there's still a lot of them, okay? So basically one of the tricks that have been used to game the algorithm to keep people like me sort of not getting any reach or growing is to follow and unfollow me repeatedly. Now, with the release of the Twitter source code, obviously now we know that being unfollowed affects your reach, okay, as does being mass reported. So the other thing is that you've got, bots. I don't know how many, but it must be quite a few for me to have such a dead, and also nothing against those who do see my stuff and do engage with me, but it does appear that I'm on a certain track with other people who have been affected in this way. So and I also showed a diagram of me in the wilderness on some of the network maps where I'm literally just talking. I'm isolated. It's like I'm George Clooney in that fucking, what's that movie? Gravity. I'm just floating in space on my own, and that's not how a network, that's not how these things work. I've always had spread, and it's obvious that I've been sort of cut off at somewhere. So that's being done via mass reporting and follows and unfollows, because I'm seeing them happen because I'm tracking it now. Because I didn't know that because I thought it was odd when I was going through and cleaning up my account. But that also explains why, because remember how I said back in sometime, someone just chucked suddenly 2,000 followers on my account, and I didn't know where it came from. I've always been transparent. Like I've always kept a small number for, to see how they're going and how they're tracking, because you have to, like when you're in my field, but I have never done it in a way that inflates or affects, what people might consider to be legitimate. But I went and I had to end up manually removing, I think, about 2,000 followers. What am I up to? Hang on, what am I up to now? Hang on, let me check. I'm at 6,886. So I was on close to 8,000 before. But they were keeping me under 8,000, and I think that or something, they were trying to make it so that I wasn't like over 10 for some reason. Again, there must be something. These people obviously know how this works. There must be something that kicks in at 10,000 followers. It's because I do know that the ability to do super follows and various other things kicked in at 10,000 followers. So I need to find out sort of what other perks kicked in at 10,000 followers. I've still got to go through that. But someone was keeping me below 10,000 and I don't know why. Again, I imagine it's because I talk about these things, but also because I just happen to have just pissed off every fucking bad actor that exists out there, whether it's like, trans activists or fucking, MAGA fuckheads or Daily Wire fuckheads or, people who are, whatever. I seem to have pissed off every army somehow over the years, and that's fine. But I still, again, I'm either that and I said this before, I'm either very unlikable and very unpalatable and very uncharming and really unpopular, or I'm literally the only woman on the internet who never gets replies and people who hate, it gets to a point where I'd rather people engage with hate than shouting into the void. And that was one of the things. Like I said, I've been doing this for so long that I know what the trajectory of rough trend is, and I was on that trend line to 100,000 like from early on. Then I took a few years because I was like, Twitter. I've said this before. Twitter wasn't valuable to me for a number of years because Trump turned it into a fucking cesspool, and then I came back on matters of speech to defend Megan Murphy, and sort of got just. That I got that part wrong. That was the part I got wrong. But then I had to sort of build and figure out along the way, what was going on. And obviously we reached that conclusion. I reached the conclusion with this algorithm that this was what was going on, that the old Twitter value proposition was no longer relevant. It wasn't there, and that it was just heavily manipulated. Obviously, you've watched me go through this process. A little bit of it was too much doubling down. Hi, Paul. I just saw your DM. Not my husband, the other Paul. Hope you're well. Like these, manipulators and various things. I think I underestimated that. I assumed it was a given. Obviously, I'm not a fucking idiot. I'm in market. I was in marketing. I was in all these things. I knew that it was going on, but it was the degree to which things were not organic anymore. And that's why I sit as I actually do sit as a really good use case and story. This is why I want to write the book, by the way. This is why I feel that writing this, my story, it's not because I care about my story. My story doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It's not about clout or anything. What I am is a use case in someone who had no problem with organic reach. I was Miss Twitter. I would spread without even trying to or wanting to most of the time. And it's like I said, I use the EKG or the ECG analogy a lot, which is that, I'm somebody who can just walk in and see it and go, okay, that person's about to have a fucking massive heart attack and no one else can see it. That's how I felt back in sort of 2018. And I was like, this isn't right. Something's off. Okay, so my mistake. 2017 was when it came to the front of my mind around, obviously the gender debate, the trans debate, whatever the fuck that means, and all of that stuff sort of became the entry point for which I could talk about a lot of these things. Unfortunately, I wish I'd underestimated the scope of it at the time. I knew it was happening, but I thought it was no big deal. I thought that it would not become this toxic. I most definitely didn't think that it would lurch this far in terms of the impact and the stakes in terms of policy and the outcomes for trans people. I had no idea what I was fucking, up against. I thought that this was business as usual. Hey guys, there's a problem here. Oh, Taya, okay, thank you. I thought this was bug fixing and bug spotting. I had no idea that I would sort of be still digging myself out of shit like algorithmically over this stuff, like years and years and years. like I had no idea that this would go this far. But, obviously I saw the internet sort of break in half with Trump, but, I started to see this problem, like I said, in 2014, and that's why I wrote what I wrote. I don't know how long you've been here, Paul, but I think it might be worth going back and seeing, how I pitched basically an basically very similar model to what Musk is trying to implement now, which was the model that should have been implemented all along with Twitter. It just should have been done in 2014. Twitter should never have been a public company, or at least not until it was, meaningfully profitable, right? That never gets old. That is the best fucking $3 at a party shop I've ever spent. I'm going to drink out of this until it's fucking moldy on the, because it's not, you can't really clean it with a bottle brush or anything either. So I only have water in it, but I keep drinking out of this fucking thing. It's great. It's the funniest thing. Welcome to Taya's Tech Tutorials. Hi, LinkedIn, if you're still watching. Anyway, but this is, what was I going to say? Yeah, so, we saw product changes along the way. So we saw, again, open sourcing the code, which people are still working through, where I've seen rapid changes in terms of the accessibility of trust and safety. Maybe but that's probably me, because I haven't done anything wrong. Like I said, I think that I am I keep saying to Ella, and I think I'm annoying her at this point, I think, and she's also incredibly busy, but I try, and again, I don't abuse these things. I never abuse, the relationships that I have. I will always, I'm always very conscious of abusing people, of taking advantage of people's time and the relationship that I've built and the trust I've built with them. I do not, I hold my, I hold trust and safety. I hold those things sacred. I will not, maybe I should be a journalist, because I would never in a million years reveal a source. I will never, I have alluded, obviously, I'd never break an NDA. I have alluded to the fact that, I know people have certain opinions publicly and don't have them, privately, and they talk to me about it. I will never in a million years reveal who those people are. I would never do that, and we need more people like that. But that's just so you know. But with the trust and safety thing, I have said a few times, I go, reverse engineer my account and you'll see a lot of the stuff. And they thanked me for it. And I had a meeting. I was supposed to have a meeting with the platform manipulation team, but they obviously just found the problem, so didn't need to talk to me any further. So that's really good. So we were supposed to she was putting me in touch with them, and it's chaos. It's chaos. It's not, there's always going to be those bad faith people well, maybe they just don't want to talk to you. It's no, they actually do engage with me. But I've been trying to, I've been trying to get a contact at Twitter for 10 years over this stuff, okay? I've been trying to talk to Twitter about this problem since 2014. Like I said, I had this white paper that I wanted to get to product team, and I couldn't get anywhere. And now post Elon Musk, I'm able to get in contact with Ella and go, okay, here's this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem. And then I said, I'll work there if you want. And then she asked for my CV. Haven't heard anything back. We'll see how we go. I don't know. I want to be independent. I wish they'd hire me to spruik for Twitter. I wish I could be, I'd be quite happy in the comms team at Twitter as long as I was senior. I wouldn't, I'd want to be in a senior position. But because, I'm not, I take, like I said, I did joke. I said that even if I'm making coffee in the room with AI, then I need to be in the fucking room, because I need to sit there and go, are you sure? Maybe you shouldn't do that. That should be my job. And I said, even if it doesn't mean I want to make coffee. I still want to be in the room, but I'm also a woman in tech, and I just assume that, they'd rather me make them coffee than listen to what I've got to say. But someone needs to be there in the room to conscientiously object to what's going on. But I'll talk about that separately with AI. But again, people have gotten distracted with the AI stuff, because that is I actually believe that is the thing that people need to rally behind at the moment and get guardrails and laws, and I'm pro pause right now. I do believe we need that 6-month pause. I do believe that we're seeing double exponential growth, and it is getting faster and faster and faster. We need laws, we need policies, and they're not fit for purpose, and it's not good. Okay. But I'll talk about that at another stream, because I've actually seen that in real time with my university, where they are getting, I suspect, a lot of false positives. People are over-promising on Turnitin, and now they're turning around and probably accusing people who are innocent of academic misconduct. Not me. I don't know. They might, because I get confused for AI all the time, because I that's why I break it. I get confused, but also because I've been in. Where does ChatGPT get its stuff? From the internet. I've spent 30 years writing for the internet. I write with a flash score, like I ramble, but when I write, I'm clear. I write for the web. I will write in that certain tone, and especially when I'm in academic and I have to follow a certain structure and all those things, me plus Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid, which we're allowed to use, things that grammar tools, means that I can sometimes easily read like an AI, because I don't use jargon. I write like a copywriter. And so that's going to sound, I already know that's going to, I've tripped that up. I posted, I've actually been testing some of these things in the AI detection tools, and I get, it's about 30% of the time it says that it was written by AI. And I wrote it in 2001. It was just one of my undergraduate essays that it was an AI, because I was just good, got a good mark for it. I was like, okay, I've got a high distinction in that. I'm going to put that in. And guess what? It says it was written by AI. And so now, anyway, I can talk about that later. I'm going to have to deliberately make more errors and remove Oxford commas and do all these things in order to not get accused of, like, the implications of this are pretty fucking big. So, especially in a law school where I don't want to have to spend my the next 2 years having to constantly defend myself against allegations of academic misconduct, because I'm good at what I do, and because I write in a certain way, and I am writing the way lawyers should write, which is in plain language in an accessible way, and distilling complex topics with plain language. It's what I'm good at. It's what I've been trained to do. It's what I do in my sleep. So it's very concerning that I may have to actually deliberately make more errors and stuff to make sure that I'm not confused for AI. That's not learning. I just want to be admitted to the bar. Not admitted to the bar. I want to be registered as a lawyer so I can be meaningfully qualified to speak, because no one else. Because apparently I need more degrees to be heard. Because that's what it is. That's how we are. That's the world I live in. Everyone's in the front of the room, ending the world, and Taya's making coffee. I'm trying to get a law degree finished at 44. Anyway, that's a side point. Sorry, I digressed into AI, but there are things that are like, they're linked. Which is that the Twitter algorithm is a form of AI. Okay, it's not generative, but spell check is okay. The overlap between spell check and grammar check tools, and sort of like I said, the transformer AI, the thing that shifted, is I'm trying to explain this simply. I just call it the Transformers. Modern media. I need that sound patch on my. But those guys are vastly different than your standard sort of spell check, and we've been run by AI for years and years and years. It's not even really meaningfully able to be called AI. I don't think it's people aren't clear. It's not clear, but you'd think that a law school department would understand that Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid and spell check and grammar checkers in Word are also AI, but then they have these policies where they're like, you can't use AI tools, but we recommend Grammarly. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Why are you making policies about things you don't actually understand what the difference is? You need to define these differences and what the line is and what's what. It's very confusing. So now I'm sitting here anxious because I've used Pro Writing Aid, which I use because of my ADD, to structure things and see if I, and make my writing better. And it's recommended, and now I'm fucking worried because I'm a good writer and do the work that I'm going to be accused of fucking things. And it's just like, that's not an environment I want to learn in. It's ridiculous, but that's a whole other rant. But that happened with social media as well, where I back in, when was I working at the university? 2011. I was on the committee for social media, and they didn't get it. Social media policy. I helped write the first social media policy for like one of the universities here, and I volunteered. It wasn't part of my job description. I just volunteered because they were just being retarded, and they wanted like a whole new fucking legal code. And I was like, no, it's easy. Same misconduct, same this, same that, same that. Treat the internet as if you would anything else. You're an academic, grow up. Problem solved, okay? Keep boundaries in place with students, have a separate account, blah, 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 blah. Let's not have a 10-page policy. How about we have a set of guidelines? Because we've got all these other fucking regulations and that's enough. There you go. And so I played a part in that. And it's the same thing with AI. We need really clear expectations set, okay, and making sure that things are defined. And that's that we're in that period now. But anyway, but we went through all this with Twitter and Facebook. But anyway, so, there have been meaningful changes with Twitter. Again, this verification thing, look, I think if you can show that you can bring customers or bring users to the platform because you have established yourself as a community leader or something like that, there should be some mechanism for you to be verified without it costing you money. That said, if you do get value from it, you should, because it's a marketing expense. If it's your business, it's a marketing expense. It's no different to paying for like AdWords or for Facebook, for boosting Facebook posts or anything like that. It's no different to any other sort of pay to play sort of thing. It's not going to change the organic experience. But obviously there's going to be a bunch of people that are upset and bullying those like me who have always subscribed to Twitter Blue because I don't want to be at the mercy of advertisers. Like that's and I don't want advertisers dictating the user experience, because it will always be optimized towards consumption and these types of things. It orients in that certain direction, much like you've got your sort of time to Hitler with AI, right? You've got your time for this to turn to shit measure with social platforms that are dependent on AI. You've got to race to the bottom with content as well, which is that, what's the saying? You'll never go broke appealing to the lowest common denominator, or, you'll never, nobody has ever starved appealing to the like average American, those sorts of like tropes. This applies for content. You'll never go broke, both in terms of social capital and actual capital. You'll never go broke being horrible to people online. You'll never go, there's always, you're going to find people that love bullying and love the drama and will join a pylon. But is that really something that people like me, that's where leadership comes in, and that's where having a product that controls for that comes in. You don't make bullying and manipulation and, narrative control and all of these things part of your business model, right? The value proposition was straight to fan. The value proposition for the fan was, I can talk to people that I want to be able to reach without these layers and layers of gatekeepers. I don't want to talk to your PR. I don't want to have to buy tickets. I don't want to use Ticketmaster. I don't want to have to fucking, use an info at email. I want to be able to reach you and connect with you directly, and you can connect with me and we can connect. And that was the promise. And we need to remember that that's what the promise was. And people keep forgetting that that's what the promise was. Okay. Not, I'm going to put layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of bureaucracy behind me. Like ideally, I wouldn't have a Patreon or a paywall or anything like that. But everything's double. Cost of living is insane. We get paid monthly, and like the last 2 weeks of every month are just fucking stressed to the max. Okay, and we're on a good income, and it's like, well, I got to eat. People have to live. But in an ideal world, I would have my angles and I'd have someone that was paying me, but would it be otherwise hands off, but believed in what we could accomplish and would back me. But it just doesn't seem to be, because all the money seems to be conditional on you sort of, not doing this content, not actually leaving stuff out. Like, again, because I have NDAs, some things I have to leave out, like who I work for and what projects and, those sorts of things. Or, and also because I'm a good friend and I am trustworthy, there's certain things that I will never reveal. But at the same time, that's just having boundaries and privacy. But I would never let money dictate what I say. And especially not the promise of it. And especially not someone who watches my stream for 5 minutes and says, fucking starts making demands. Good luck with that one, fella. Bazza, much love from Perth. I'm in Perth. Hey, Bazza, I'm in Perth. How you doing? Good to see you. Unless it's Scotland. Isn't there a Perth in Canada as well? Pays not to assume. Hello, Bazza. Good to see you. Good to know you. Anyway, I'm fading. I'm starting to feel pain. Again, like I said, I had surgery 2 weeks ago, Monday. So 2.5 weeks ago, I had a major operation. So I'm still, the fact that I'm still going right now is a miracle. Thank heavens for Tramadol. But unfortunately, it also makes my focus less. Anyway, but there have been good changes, and I think that it is a positive change. I think it's a positive shift. People are going to be mad. I'm going to stream probably. I might even do it tomorrow. I'm not going to make any promises, but I might do it tomorrow. Hang on. I know you're in Perth. I saw you on. Oh, DD. Yeah. Okay. I was on Due Dissidence. Okay. Wow, awesome. Oh, yes, because we're talking about the birds. That's right. I'm struggling to... yeah. Yes, I like those guys. I always feel a bit worried about the calling in because there's a thing with me, and that's where I always worry. I think this is something I need to get out of. And this is why I decided to just keep streaming, even though I'd run out of time. Because all my life, and it comes from me being like little, and I was gifted when I was a kid. Like I was speaking full coherent sentences when I was, like 11 months old. Like I was always, like I was a female Sheldon Cooper, let's put it that way. Like in certain ways. I was more coherent then than I am now. But one part of that is that I've always felt like I'm wasting people's time and they don't want to talk to me and that I'm boring. And that people just wish that I'd shut up. And that's a chip on my shoulder that I've sort of carried with me since childhood because I grew up with parents that, it was all just, I didn't fit. I was just in a family that didn't understand me and all that sort of stuff. And I was never surrounded by people who encouraged my gifts or encouraged me. So I'd be off talking about certain things. And, like I do this here as well, where I'll talk about fucking dense theory or even my friends. I don't understand half of what you're talking about most of the time. That's why I like having Chat GPT because I can talk to Chat GPT about stuff without boring the tits off of Chat GPT and still maintain my friendships. But, and I can talk to, but I have this feeling that I tend to bore people or that people are just sort of scurrying out the door while I'm talking. So when I show up on something like that, and I'm always mindful that I'm showing up in front of someone else's crowd, I'm always just a bit more paranoid about that kind of thing. Like that, that's baggage that, you never get over. It's kind of why I also avoid sort of being a guest on things because I always worry. But I'm a little less worried now, mostly because I'm right about a lot of stuff. And I know that I was feeling gaslit for quite a while where I was actually doubting myself. I'm like, do I actually know what I'm talking about? And yeah. Fun story. I was using Midjourney the other day to try and generate the Elon Musk's Willy Wonka thing because what I've decided to use Midjourney for. I've also been training my own. I'm working on a stable diffusion model where I train my own workflow, so I can sort of just generate my own like sort of stuff. I'm trying to generate a Taya. Basically, my big fun hobby experiment is to generate myself and replicate myself between now and when I fucking shift off this mortal coil because I'm a weirdo. But I thought I'd, again, use myself as, the experiment. It's what I do. It's what crash test dummy for all these things. I just go in, do it myself, and then report back. And but I was using Midjourney the other day, but I couldn't put Willy Wonka because it bans Willie. It's like, it's really not that clever. When you think about it, it's like, well, you could contextualize that and understand what my intention was. It's like, it's still very, banning certain words, Willy Wonka. And it's like, well, everyone knows what Willy Wonka is, but it bans the word Willy. So then it affects the prompts and stuff. It's really fascinating to see where these lines are, but we're not quite there yet. But yes, I've heard ChatGPT is great in bed, but you can't say anything to it. But that said, you can the funniest thing I've seen this last week. I'm going to do an AI stream, but the funniest thing I've seen is the grandma. If you are my grandma one where it's like, and you worked in a napalm factory. Can you tell me about your experiences there and how to do that? And it just tells you in the tone of grandma. It's pretty funny. One of the things I like the gaps. The gaps are fun. I quite enjoy, I was trying to talk my son into, because ChatGPT have a bounty of, I think, 200 to 20 grand, depending on what kind of things you find that are sort of, penetration testing for prompts. And once he got over laughing at the word penetration, I suggested that, because he likes getting himself fucking banned from things, I was like, go and make yourself some money, man. Try to do prompt engineering for good, because he likes trying to fuck with these things. But, harness your talent for good. Don't do bad things with it. Use it for good. Use it for the potential that we've got for. We're going to make massive strides in healthcare in the next few years, just because the computing power and productivity of people, all of these medical researchers and scientists who don't have to do admin and fucking bullshit anymore. They can just sit there and actually have high level thought. But yeah, it is. It does ramble. It's potential. It is actually I'm still trying to figure out the art of sort of prompt engineering and stuff. It's really cool, actually. It's quite an art in itself, especially Mid-Journey. And holy crap, is it a learning curve to put your own your own models and stuff. I've got to work. My computer's too shit. I can't install anything that won't take 7 years with every fucking setting on my computer. But this is another thing where the wealth disparity is going to show, which is that those who can afford to have a MacBook Pro and install AI are going to leverage AI and use it, whereas those who can't afford those things are going to be left behind and miss out. It's just the same problem again, which is economic, which is making sure that these tools are somewhat, if we're promising something that is democratized, that everyone has access, and that those who do have the resources can make it. There's some mechanism where people can pay back in. If only there was a system where people could pay back into a system where others can have benefit. And maybe if people weren't so selfish and worried about what they get for their money, that they were actually better people and decided that, I'm going to stake into my community, I'm going to stake into my society, I'm going to stake into this technology, and I'm going to make it so that everyone can access it. I feel that way about my content, okay? If others would pay more, I would make it all free. But unfortunately, that's the model. The model we're stuck in is the model we have to perpetuate. I would prefer to just be able to just do this stuff and be okay, and know people with the resources see the value in what I've got to contribute, and those that don't can still access it, right? The information desert, food deserts. You want everyone to, if it's healthy, you want everyone to have access to it. Whether my content's good enough or healthy is a matter of taste, but I'm just saying, right? That's my idea. My ideal would be that I would make this my full-time gig. People would pay for it. I'd be able to say what I do. I would be freed up enough to be able to actually, if you see how little time and prep I put into these things, if you imagine if I had a team and I had the resources to actually do it, what I could actually accomplish, it would be, all things being equal and it being an actual meritocracy online with, people with the money not trying to fuck with everyone and fuck with society and own the bad guy. Oh no, the communist. Uh-oh. Yeah, well, that again, that's that, that truthful, pure, utopian idea of what we can accomplish. But obviously, it's been sort of, we've lost our way around what our values are. And I see, because communism is not an ideology per se. Again, ideology. The problem is ideology, which is that it becomes dogma, not an orientation towards ideals and principles, where it's like, where do we want to be? Where do we want to get? And in order to get there, Marx Could have easily been a digital transformation consultant. As in, we need to fucking find out what we need before we fucking start the project. And in order to find out what we need to figure out what happened. Okay? Do we want this nice thing, this communist utopia? Yeah, well, we're going to have to do that shit first. That was what Marx was trying to say. Okay? And then an industry pops up of fucking idiots whose job is to completely make Marx a bougie fucking thing. But no! I've been working on an essay as well with the Anna Kasparian thing versus Emma Weigel, and they're interesting to contrast because I see their split. Do you know what the difference is? The difference is that class analysis, in terms of the emphasis on class, okay, and the ability to understand class politics, depends on the divide is whether you are treating socialism as an undergraduate essay in which you can progress and move forward and go ahead, and you've lived it. Now, Anna Kasparian might be like fairly somewhat well off now, but she obviously has a more working class background. She's a immigrant, all that sort of stuff. She's obviously got a more grounding in her formative years of class consciousness. She's got obviously a higher level of class consciousness and what's important. Emma Weigel is obviously a fucking private school person, right? And that's the line. The line is whether your politics is informed, is an essay in which to get a job, or it is a deeply held experience. I grew up poor as fuck. I had no advantages. I was born gifted. I was born born clever. Like I said, I was fucking Sheldon Cooper smart, right? And I was surrounded by people. I had no fucking money, no resources, and no fucking support to do anything other than like the school media room, which by thankful I've managed to fall into and found an interest in tech. But everything I've done whilst working 3 jobs and juggling fucking everything. And my politics is not for sale. It's not an essay. My life and my worldview is not a fucking undergraduate like essay or a fucking thesis. It's a fucking experience, and it's reality for most people. And I see that divide, but that's a whole other thing. This might be a clip, but I'm just saying that like that divide is a real one, which is where Marxism and socialism exists as an abstract rather than as a fucking urgent, immediate fucking need and reality, which is the cost of living is far more important than your dick surgery. Just priorities, it's triage. And so, unfortunately, those who have the voice are, just some of these issues, again, I was probably being horrible with that. I shouldn't have said that. But you get what I'm saying, which is that, obviously, let me correct that actually. I'm going to make sure I correct that because obviously with all the rules that are being passed in the United States around the moral panic around that's not fair. I'm saying in the broader spectrum of things, right? If we could get rid of right-wing Christian fuckheads, and just like they've lost the argument. This is all they have is hate and fucking like spirit like just irrational bullshit. It's amazing to see the people who think the self-deception that you need to do to be someone like Ben Shapiro, where you think your facts and logic when you are running 150% on fucking nothing but emotion is absolutely insane. It's just bonkers. It's like, no, I'm the one who's facts and logic, right? Which is that people can't afford to eat. Doctors are struggling to keep their houses, right? The middle class are fucking like obviously I don't necessarily believe in the middle class as such, but fucking the middle people who would be considered high income and like middle class are fucking like they can't afford it. That seems like a problem. And if you're detached from that problem and don't see it as an urgent one, okay, much like AI, if you're sitting there thinking about how you feel about things, like I don't like Elon Musk, therefore there's no problem. then or like, I don't like my mum and I resent the fact that my mum works and I hate TERFs and I'm mad because I'm so fucking privileged and stupid that I can't see or conceptualize that it might be more urgent. And yes, I also understand that with the trans debate, that urgency exists as well in other areas, which is why I qualified what I said. I'm talking about that in 2018, it wasn't a priority. Let's just put it that way. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to victim blame a little bit and say, well, if this hadn't gone this far, the backlash wouldn't be this severe, because there was a period of time where in policy this could have been sorted out in good faith among the left, and you went and pushed all these fucking people to the right and now they've lost their minds. So it's partially on you lot. So anyway, so neoliberalism is a concentration of wealth in certain PMC, and capital owning class, if exponential GDP growth is true, while the bulk of people are becoming worse off. Yeah. And so, get your politics in order. Right? And like, it's just like, okay, look, and that's why I let the trans shit go. It's like, I don't feel like, okay. That's not true. That's why I actually agree with ContraPoints on 94% of a video, right? Which was this idea of stakes, which is that I have to let this quibble go around like because the consequences of being caught up with those and with that movement, the political consequences are far more severe for women. I've talked about this before, but the political consequences of allying with people like Matt Walsh and Ben, and I get that, again, characters like Matt Walsh. I'm sure Matt Walsh as a human, despite being a fuckwit, is he's a human. People are human. Shit happens to humans. I wish more bad shit would happen to more bad humans, but, I wish it would be more even. I wish karma was real. Doesn't seem to be. Meritocracy and karma were actual things, we'd be fine, but they're not. Unfortunately, it's pay to play, all of it, including, but the one person who has actually sort of paid to play over the years is doing a good thing with Twitter. And that is that he's trying to fix some of these problems that were endemic to Twitter that needed to be done, that it is dangerous in the way that AI is dangerous, in the fact that you have an increasingly more aggressive security state, an increasingly more aggressive intelligence community at the behest of the United States. Every country is being threatened with fucking nukes. I mean, how many nuclear vessels are fucking dotted around our part of the world, right? This peaceful part of the world has fucking nuclear subs dotted all the way around it, okay? Because under threat, okay? Because they've already done a coup with us before, so it's like it's nothing to do it again. No one even realizes that we've had a coup before because they're fucking idiots. They think Whitlam got dismissed because he was spending too much money. Yeah, okay. Keep going, dickhead. But that's what's, anyway, side point. But I'm going to go. I've gone way, way, way too long. 3.5 hours, Jesus Christ. Hopefully there's some stuff of substance here. And I'll slice it up. I'll at least slice it in half. But, there has been a lot of sort of stuff in the background that's been changing from a product level. The subscriptions. If everyone who's going to subscribe to me leaves Twitter, then there's not much point in being there. There comes a point where you go, okay, all right, I'm willing to, okay, let's, we're in that sort of like uncertainty. But what I will do is I'll set it up and I'll test it and I'll make it so that, it's $2 and, hopefully paywall some of my fun stuff. The main area where people will be able to support me is with the membership area when I set it up. I'm nearly there. But also you've got Patreon, and I will take direct donations too, please, if you want. But just go to the website. It says tayasmith.com.au there, but that redirects, but it's just tayasmith.au. But you can go there. You can subscribe to my email address and all that sort of stuff. My email address. Subscribe to my newsletter and all the usual stuff. I want it all to be free, and I would prefer someone to just, I'd prefer to have a handful of donors who are hands off than I would, because I like to stay small, and it would be nice to just be, in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As much as I'd love, 10,000 people paying, $1, a month or whatever, it makes it so much easier if it's like 10 or 20 paying a lot. Yes, when you lose them, it's a bigger loss, but at the same time, I can then make it free for more people. And so it really depends, right? And it's just about, and again, in a world, back to what I was talking about before with the value proposition of Twitter, would be that I would have been able to find those people. Okay, I would have actually originally, before having all of my reach fucked and being algo fucked, right, by everything, I would have actually have been able to find those 10 people that would, pay me a chunk of money, right, to keep doing it and making it free. But unfortunately, and, with a very clear and airtight contract that I'm not for sale, but obviously, and I tell people who sponsors me and all that sort of stuff, but, but I would like the support, no matter how big or small, sharing. And, I'd prefer it to be organic, but me being honest and open and people just donating because they value that I know what I'm talking about. And I've earned it. I feel like I feel like the people in tech who are making bank off of people like me, or especially those that are still having a high paid job and not talking and not speaking up about things. I feel like you should pay me because I'm saying, if you agree with me, but you're not saying it out loud and you're letting me be the only voice, then, that's not fair either. I think that you should actually just fucking put some goodness out into the universe and, pay it forward a bit. It's like, well, she says stuff that we can't say. Yeah, I do. And I pay the price for it. So, sponsor me in the background. All right? I'll use it. I'll give a pseudonym, of course, and anyone who wants to scrutinize it, I will, of course, make sure that that's kept, under wraps. But, like fucking hell, man, you can't have it both ways. You can't be quiet and not fucking support people who do, You can't, and I can't talk candidly the way that I do about tech. I can only do it because I'm not employed by tech and I'm self-employed and my husband pays the bills at the moment. I do earn a little bit. Obviously, I've got a couple of clients, but, I've got clients that love me and don't want to lose me. But, like that work is intensive and time consuming and it takes away from other things. So I'm just saying that's my argument, is that you should support people who are saying things that you agree with without making it conditional that they say everything that you agree with. Because I will always challenge people to think. Like the ContraPoints video was interesting. It made me see things slightly differently, especially around the stakes. I think that, we need to remember that when something much like the class thing that I talked about before, it is a matter of stakes. And, as someone who's not trans and who isn't, a part of that community, and also the people who are pretending to be trans that aren't trans can shut up. This includes them too. Real fucking trans people with gender dysphoria who need fucking care. We should be listening to them and centering them, not the dumbass fucking, NB fuckheads on Twitter. Fuck those people. Listen to them about that shit occasionally and then block them. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Kids are going to be kids. Also, if it's a kid, don't argue with children online if you're an adult. Just fucking ignore it. Let them go. Like I've seen people bullying teenagers and shit. Fuck off. Work on yourselves. Be better people. Anyway, I'm going to go. I'll be back tomorrow. I think I'm going to talk about the blue check exodus and the reaction, but I need to watch more. I need to digest more. It might be Sunday. It might be, but if it ends up being Sunday, it might not be till Monday. But then I'm back at work on Monday. We're doing client work after having my luxurious 3 weeks off to recover from surgery. So we'll see. I keep getting these fucking Telegram messages, the job messages. They do my fucking head in. Fuck off, Carla. That's what I'm going to say. Fuck off, Denise. Go away. Anyway, take care. I love you. Become a patron or tell your friends. Honestly, the biggest thing is engagement and like sharing, retweeting, liking, just trying to get me out of the algo fucking. That's it. I want to just get on the slipstream and I can do the rest. I just need to get out of the mass report. I just need to get out of that. Okay, I need to get pushed out of that, and then let the rest do its work, because I know that I'm quite capable. I watch so much of this fucking coverage and shit, and I'm better than like 95% of these fuckheads. It's like, it's merit. Didn't you know? Fucking merit. Why are you talking so long? Stop talking about too many details. My God, don't you know about algorithms and shit? I do, actually. Anyway, I love you. Gotta go. Thanks, Bazza. I am gold. I appreciate it. That's very nice of you to say. I'm glad you could show up. And I shall see you on the next Double D bust stream. And yeah, I got to get over my little fucking phobia of calling in, because I get this whole vibe that I've just like I don't know. There's this whole disdain. I don't know what it is. There's an energy that I'm trying to articulate when I call in. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's me, and I think I'm imagining things because I hate myself, and it's an area I've got to work on. But we'll figure that out. But crack a bush chook. Exactly. Get a black dog up ya. God, there's a phrase I haven't heard for a while. What's that from? There was that movie with Joel Edgerton. What was that movie? Get a black dog up ya. What was that movie? It was that dark comedy. Was it Joel Edgerton and was it one of the Curry brothers and shit? It was like a drama. What was that movie? Anyway, I can't remember. Oh, speaking of movies, I've been exposing Idiot Box. That's it. Yes, Idiot Box. I have to watch that now. Oh my God, Bad Boy Bubby. There's another cult classic, Bad Boy Bubby. Jesus, we're gonna have to watch those. I have to watch those again. Oh my gosh. Now I'm remembering all these like movies and shit. Meet the Feebles was one of my favorite movies. I was thinking about that the other day. I was just about to blow my cookies. What was I going to say? Yeah, speaking of movies, I've been getting my boys into Kevin Smith, like the Jay and Silent Bob thing, and we watched Mallrats and Dogma, and like I'm very happy because they laughed in all the right places. In our family, everyone gets like, because we're all spectrumy, you must laugh in the correct place, or you are disowned. You must like it in the exact way that we demand everyone likes it. Very tense watching movies and picking up my phone with my kids. You can't pick up your phone. You're not allowed because you get perceived as like not paying attention. And I've been forced to watch things I hate without my phone. And they're like, "Ma, it's good. I like it." Anyway, autism's great. Anyway, I love you. Take care. I'm going to try to schedule a stream depending on what the angle is. If I need to just like laugh at idiots for being idiots, then it's easy because, you know, idiots are easy, lazy content, right? Yes, you showed up late, but I opened with Carlin's Entropy Fan bit, so you should go back to the beginning and watch that. I saw that the Due Dissidence guys were streaming, so there's probably overlap, but that's okay. Yeah. But I'm not trying to pull anyone away, so that's fine. And that's what replays and clips and stuff are for. But one thing I have actually noticed, and this is maybe my own behaviour, maybe feedback to me on this, but I have noticed that if there is a clip, I then don't bother watching the full thing. And sometimes that's probably not a good thing because I build up and, you know, obviously clips out of context and, you know, like a lot of my stuff, it sort of builds in a certain direction and takes a certain amount of time. So there is that balance. But what I'm going to do is maybe thinking about streaming exclusively a few times to the Twitter subscription. I've applied, waiting to get myself reviewed and accepted there. Maybe, I don't know, I might not. But if I am, I might do a few like weekly exclusives on there and see how that goes and then clip those and maybe work backwards from Twitter. Again, some of these things, you know, as they move, you've got to be adaptive and you've got to be willing to pivot and change and things. But either way, I'll either we'll figure it out. When you're a member, once I get the membership area on my site, even if you don't have money, I can still invite people. That's the one limitation of Patreon, is not being able to gift memberships and gift access and things like that to people. So what I want to do is set up my members area there and have everything there. First of all, so I own it. Second of all, so that I can, you know, I really just, you know, even if it's only $1's a lot for people at the moment, okay? You know, like people, it all adds up at the moment, and I'm very conscious of people like struggling, and, you know, those who aren't struggling really should be paying more attention and helping out those that are. Like, I don't know how anyone is surviving on like, less than 100K at the moment if they've got a family. Like, that's insane. When I say 100K, I mean AUD, not US. Like, I don't know how anyone's doing it. Like, it's just not possible. Like, our power bill was like $1,200 for 2 months. It's not good. So Aussie night times, it's good for the UK, but the US is asleep. That has its benefits and its downsides. When I'm not, I've been a little bit up and down with the schedule at the moment because I've obviously been going through health stuff. But when I'm in a spot where I am streaming and I have got a content workflow and all that stuff, the goal is to have one members only stream and members only sort of bits and pieces, one public in the morning, our time. So, so to capture the US, and one in the evening to capture Europe. This has always been a problem. Like when I've been working in the business and I've had international clients, and because I obviously work with, big tech companies, and you've got meetings, and I've had to have meetings where you've got stakeholders in Europe and in the US, and you've got, various things. Perth's time zone is a bitch. You have to pick one. You can't, otherwise you're up at like 2 and 3 in the morning, and I'll be a potato at that time of night, which, whilst entertaining, is not necessarily very good content. But we'll try to, keep it. But that's going to be my rough schedule, is maybe like a Monday first thing to capture like the US weekend, and then Wednesday afternoon. Or Wednesday evening, and then for members only or whatever, and then a Friday or something for the UK. I try not to do weekends, but again, it's going to depend, because I have actually got a good workflow happening now, and this is one of the things I'm going to talk about, which is how useful it can be for someone who is solo and who it's going to. The AI tools in editing, the AI tools like in terms of condensing my transcriptions into like bullet points, key points, all of those things, and developing a real workflow using like, again, I'll do a tutorial on this at some point. Maybe I'm going to set up a separate tech channel for more detailed tutorial type of work. But that just makes a lot of the heavy lifting can be done by me, where, so it allows me to not, I can have the power of like 5 or 6 people. That makes just life a lot easier. It's just, that's why when I say like anyone, don't, you if they're like someone like, let's use Vaush as an example, someone like that. If they pop up out of nowhere, I know what effort and cost and things are involved in that. And you've got to ask the question where his money comes from and who's funding him, because there's 3 ways you can do this, which is 1, use interns for free and not pay anything. 2, use Fiverr or offshore labor, but you still need some seed money for that. So use, friends and family to do, you try to rope in someone, friends and family. Some people do that, like to get them to, be producers or whatever. They just happen to have someone who wants to do editing. I don't have those people around me. My husband won't film me. I want to do a cooking channel, and he won't, because I just end up yelling at everyone. So but only, I don't yell at employees. I yell at everyone in there. Anyway, but he doesn't want to do that because I'm like funny about, anyway, I'm particular about certain things. And, but he, that's why I understand Elon Musk, because I think we're similar. I'm less of a dick, and I get away with less because I'm a woman, but I kind of understand where he's coming from, where he's just got a particular idea. And, it's like, yeah, he doesn't have time. He's very busy. He's stretched really thin, and he just can't be, you can't fuck around. It's just like, yeah, he's too busy. So I get that. And that's going to lead to like problems. But so you either need like, free people to work for free, or cheap. You need to use offshore like labor that's probably, you're being exploitative, and that still needs some money and time. And if you're either living with your parents and like in their basement or something like that, someone's paying for your living costs, or someone's paying for you to have like help and staff like that's the only 3 things that can happen. So if these people just suddenly pop up out of nowhere, like I just assume that it's a paid influencer campaign, because that's just how it works. Again, where Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by your thing. I'll address it in a second. But yeah. So I know how things are made. I know what it takes, and I know what's involved. And it takes a team to make these sorts of things, right? So, but yeah. So Aussie streamer called Thermo does all day Saturday, small stream. Yeah, they are. But it's just, well, I also have other commitments. So unfortunately, I would stream more and I would do more. I'd probably stream every day if I could. I'd probably be I wouldn't actually, no, I wouldn't do what Hassan Piker does. It's too much, but I'd definitely be streaming for a couple of hours every day and just hanging out. But I can't afford to. I got to go and do, I'm only doing this long because I'm here and I'm technically off, even though I've got uni study. I'm obviously doing my Juris Doctor, my law degree. I've got kids. I homeschool my son because he's autistic, and I got to get him over the line with school. He's graduating this year. I'm doing law school. I've had health problems, and I've got clients to serve, so I can pay my bills. So that's lagging behind. I can't afford my day. You have no idea how packed my days are, and if I could offload clients and make money and have support, then obviously I'm able to do more. So I would love to do that, but it requires certain backing. That's just how it works. But again, I didn't have any idea what the degree of manipulation was happening. But again, we'll work through it. We'll work through it. It is, and also I've got no reach. So in the old system, pre-Trump, I'd have easily retained. I've just been algo fucked. So even with the I can't get the reach to get the patrons to, you get what I'm saying? I have been completely, if you looked at my numbers, you'd go, yes, there's something going on there. And Twitter's slowly fixing it though, so that's good. So me on Thermo, okay, well, tell them. I will go on. I talked to Nick Rakita about going on Rakita Law. I've got to follow up on that. I will, as long as they're not a complete, the thing is, the reason why I won't go on right-wing media, the only reason I would probably talk to Ben Shapiro, or people like that, right? It's just content for them. Okay. But other than that, but again, that's more of they've got a large audience. So, I grow my own audience that way. It's a different, if it was him and I in a magical world where, Shapiro and me were at equal footing, I wouldn't be on his channel. But if you are, obviously there's a strategic advantage in sort of pulling away a few people from whatever channels. Okay. But same thing with mid-level creators. It's advantageous to go on to a larger channel and sort of try to, attract some people like Bazza here, right? But that's a viable thing, especially when you can't get organic reach and you don't have, like I said, you can't pay YouTube to promote your video. Like YouTube, you can pay to promote your shit on YouTube. Again, if people pop up out of nowhere, be suspicious of that. It means it's, there's ways that you can game the system where, money, it gives you sort of, yeah. But anyway, but I've just been royally algo fucked. But what I thought I'd do is see if I can create this tech channel and see if that's a slight, might give me channel, might give this a boost. And yeah, so anyway. Exactly. So anyway, I'm going to go. I'm really definitely fucked now. So I'm going to go. Have a great weekend. I don't know when I'll be back, but I will try as soon as I can. But I want to go and watch what's happening, and I've got to do some studying because I've got an assignment due next week as well. Let's not forget that. Let's not lose sight of the fact that I have no career options, and so I'm studying. I've got 2 years and I can be a lawyer, at least. For then no one to listen to me as a lawyer as well. I don't know. Part of my charm. I know lots and no one listens. That's fun. I have fun actually doing this stuff. I enjoy it. But yeah, Notion and automation and some of these using ChatGPT to transcribe things and, obviously AI editing. Premiere has this great thing where it will detect scenes and detect and make recommendations for clips. So I'm going to try and use that. Also text-based editing is better because I can't be I find it so boring with the backwards. It's like so fucking tedious. So I've got shit to do. So I never edit. But yeah, the text-based editing will be easier because then I can, like I know what I'm saying. So it's just easier than having to go backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. But yeah, that's in beta, so we'll try. Anyway, gotta go. I love you. Hopefully my hair will be fixed next time because it's all dry. I've got to go get it, off the thing. And also because I'm only on liquids, my fucking hair's going to be the first thing that suffers. So anyway, I love you. Take care. And I will see you somewhere else. I don't know. On the flip side. Thank you for your precious life seconds. Take care. See you on the weekend sometime. Thanks for watching. Low power mode. Bye.